Good morning.
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
So far, so good. A little windy out, but so far,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, we didn't get a blizzard this time, so that's good.
Uh,
We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Let's get a bunch of people in the room and then we'll get going. Welcome, everybody. We are recording this session, and so we'll distribute it to everyone who's registered and everyone who would like it afterwards. Everybody get their download for their guide that they can use?
Yep.
Okay, good.
It's
Awesome. All right, so it's already a few minutes after 9. Let me introduce our guests here today. First of all, Wade Webb. Wade is our host. He's our coach. He's our trainer today, and he's also going to push us a little bit. Wade is one of the owners of Royal LePage Kelowna. He's also a trainer. He's a coach. He's a great recruiter. He's a great business person. We've been friends for a long time. And to top it off, he's a business coach outside of just real estate. And he likes to fly fish like I do. So we have that in common for sure. With that, Wade, before I do that, Joe Ferrante and I are both the hosts or co-hosts and bringing Wade into our brokerages. So thanks for doing this with us, Joe.
Thank you. I mean, you did most of the heavy lifting, so I appreciate that, and we look forward to it. And I think it'll benefit everybody that's attending. So I'll leave it to you.
Fantastic.
I know everyone's busy.
Awesome. Wade, go for it. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Joe. Thanks everybody for joining me. I was just mentioning to Alex this morning, you had a choice of business planning with Wade Webb or NFL football all day. So I appreciate you coming and taping the and recording all the games this morning instead of sitting down and watching the football. But we'll get there sooner or later today. So happy American Thanksgiving, and thanks everybody for joining us for business planning. Today, we're going to just roll up our sleeves. But before they do that, I'll give you a little bit of a background, a little bit of additional stuff, like Alex was saying. I was a licensed realtor myself. Licensed, I'm starting my 33rd year in real estate this year. I was 12 when I started real estate, just kidding. And so I've been doing it for just over 3 decades. And I was gracious enough to write a book called The Lazy Realtor. It's available on Amazon. And it's just a tribute to my dad, who was my mentor. I joined my father in the early 90s and worked together with him for a number of years. Achieved the chairman's club level in the sales achievement levels on personal production, and then in 2000, started a broker ownership in the Kelowna, British Columbia area. And from the broker ownership thing, the training, and then people started reaching out saying, "Hey, could you do some consulting? Hey, could you do some workshops? Hey, could you do some coaching?" So I do some coaching for Coach Ken International, and work with him on his coaching clients and different clients across Canada and the United States. My wife says she wishes that she was three things now, Alex. One is that she wishes she was a rainbow trout. And number two, she wishes she was a Montreal Canadian. And number three, she wishes she was a real estate deal, because I love all three of those things, I think, more than anything in the world. I saw Craig Berube's comment yesterday, and it was fitting, I think, to lead into my opening topic on business planning was mindset. And he just said the Leafs need to just have a glass half full mentality instead of a glass half empty mentality. And so I'm like, okay, Craig, thanks for the tips. And once again, the Habs gave a nice little clinic for the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night, and that was just a joyous
Wow.
moment for me to watch. And I just had to get that plug in, because you can when you get the chance. So
Wow.
anyways,
Unfortunately, all the flights are canceled from your province to ours.
yes,
And we're going to
absolutely.
tariff every flight you have. I can't believe
Tariff
you
every one
started
of them.
off with that
Yes.
kick like that. Ouch. Okay.
It's all
Woke me
right.
up
We're
now.
one each. You guys beat us in the opening season. We're one each now. So
Uh,
that's the rubber match is the next match.
yeah, no one's going to
But
hear that now. They just heard your original headline.
exactly. They just
Yeah,
said, "Oh, he's a Habs fan. I'm going to watch NFL football. I'm out of here."
too much.
So There's three or four components, I think, or sections we're going to just dive into on the business planning side of things. But I think that 2025 was just one of those years. It was a little different for Ontario and for British Columbia. I think that Ontario's market and Ontario's economy and things is much similar with the rules, the legislations, the sales, the transactions. We have a lot in common. When I'm coaching agents in Ontario and BC, there's a lot of correspondence that. But the one thing I do notice is that it's just testing everybody's mindset. It's testing everybody's thought process. It's testing what we're thinking about. And I've just noticed that this is one of those markets. I personally feel it's a professionals market. I feel that it's one of those markets where you really learn about yourself and you really learn about where you're at from the skill set and from the mindset level. But I just noticed that there's agents that are out there like the shark and killing it, and then there's agents that are like the goldfish and they're getting killed. And there's this huge gap where there's agents that are just killing it, and then there's agents that are just struggling and getting killed. And it's not an easy market. I get that. And I know it's not an easy economy in that. But at the end of the day, we have to really be aware of what we're thinking and what we're saying and what we're putting out and what we're gathering around. I don't know about your market, but it's not difficult to find the woes, me's, and the negative Nellies in your marketplace. They're loud, they're around, they're everywhere. And so just one of those things is just challenging our perspective and shifting your perspective and having that awareness and knowing that you have that choice to choose. I'll start with my favorite story. So this company, the shoe company, sends two salesmen over to Africa. And these gentlemen head over there representing a shoe sales company and they're heading over there. And then the two salesmen start working and then they call back to head office. And the first salesman calls back and says, I don't even have any idea why anybody sent me here. What a waste of time. There's no opportunities here because nobody wears any shoes. Like, why are we even here and what are we doing here? And then the other salesman calls back and he says, man, this is one of the greatest road trips I've ever had. Like, thank you for sending me here. I cannot believe it, but nobody here wears any shoes. And at the end of the day, you can think about that. This is a waste of time. There's not the greatest leads, the difficult sellers. They want to pay too much, need too much, want too much. And then there's this other opportunity where where's the opportunity in the marketplace? And we all know if you've been doing this long time and as long as I have, that this is the sixth shift I've experienced. This is the sixth time I've seen a shift in this marketplace. And so I'm just encouraging you guys to write this question down and think about it when we leave here today is that where are the opportunities in your market? Right? Where are the opportunities in the market? Alex and I had a quick conversation just before we jumped in here this morning, and he was just talking about where the migration is happening and where people are going and where they're coming from and where they're leaving in that. And there's data, there's resources, there's sources. Like I said to Alex, if you dive into the data, you dive into with chat and all these different tools and that, there's so much access to information where you can see where the opportunities are. And we're going to dive into today and just talk about where the opportunities are and moving and shifting. I'll share a little story in Kelowna. So give you an example of how you have to pivot and how you have to watch where the opportunities are. So up until July, everything we saw was under $1 million. Listings, sales, all our activity was under $1 million up until July. Then in July, things just pivoted, things shifted in the Okanagan. And so, you would all agree with me that this isn't what we perceivably be the better of the market time, and this is not the greatest time in that. But interesting enough, we've had the three highest residential sales in history in the last 60 days in Kelowna. True story. 35, 38, high, multiple $1 million residential sales in the Okanagan area. So all of a sudden we're seeing activity shifting since July in that 1.8, 2.8, 3.8. People with money and people that have money in the markets. Is anybody else paying attention to what's happening in the markets? Has anybody else seen their portfolio and pretty happy like I am the last couple months here where you're like, how? Why? Like, what is the stock market doing? What's the markets doing in that? And I think that it's poised to maybe change or shift in that. But at the end of the day, people that are invested are feeling comfortable. They're feeling confident. They're looking at it, and I'm seeing that they're spilling money into lifestyle, into areas, and into properties and real estate at a higher level right now than we've seen. And so there's a tremendous opportunity. So look at going back to the moral of the story. There's going back and watching what the numbers say, watching what the sales say, watching what the migration and the data says, and that, because it gives you an idea, and it gives you a sign of where the opportunities are and where's the opportunities in your marketplace. So I encourage you to look at it and see if it's moved, if it's shifted, where it is, where it's going. Gretzky always said, I only pay attention and think about where the puck is going to be, not where it is or where it's already gone. And again, that's one of the lessons here for us in our marketplace. Where's the puck going? Where's it going to be in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and 2026? And think about where it's going to be, and not worry about where it is right now and where it has been. One of my favorite coaching sessions with most veteran agents that are struggling is that I'll just ask them this question. I said, what are all the things that you were doing before? What are all the things that you did when you first started out? What you're willing to do anything it took to get your sales and that, and what are the things that you've done in the past, and make a list. So Alex, I've been in Edmonton and Victoria and Vancouver and London and different venues and that. But one of the gentlemen from my session last year walked up to me and he said, "Hey, you got a minute?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, sure. What's going on?" And Paul says to me, "I got to tell you, one thing I took away from last year was this." He said, "You had said, go back and make a list of all the things that I did and I did well, that worked and that were working for me, and make a list, and then go back and start doing them again." And he said, "I did that. And my year is way up. I'm up 40, 50%. My business is back in, and I just did one simple thing. I wrote down all the things that worked for me, all the things I used to do, all the things that I did, and I just started doing them again." And you're like, "Really, Wade? Like, we came here this morning to hear something as trivial as that." But sometimes we can't see the trees through the forest. Sometimes we always underestimate the power of the simple. Sometimes we're always thinking of that, I'm arrived. I don't need to do opens. I'm a big deal now, right? Like, I don't need to do open house. Or at my office, we have a mall kiosk. I mean, like, I'll ask somebody, "Well, where'd you get your first deals when you first started?" "Well, the kiosk in the mall." "Well, when's the last time you did the mall?" "Well, I don't have to do the mall now. Wait, like, I'm a 4-year veteran now. I'm bigger than the mall kiosk. That's just for, yeah, it's just for losers and rookies and stuff like that." So at the end of the day, I don't know what it is, but we're creatures of habit, and you start to get a little complacent. You start to get a little bit too big for our own britches, that. And so I just encourage you to think about what are the things that you used to do and how many of those things are you still doing. It's kind of my favorite simple coaching concept and coaching session with most people is they're like, "Got it. I'm just going to go back to doing what it is." And I get it that sometimes it gets boring, or sometimes it gets tedious, or sometimes it's just minutia, that, or you're always looking for something more exciting or newer or innovative or AI, and how can I just do all this stuff and that. And at the end of the day, it's you gotta show up. You gotta do what you always done. It's the same activities over and over again, right? And so the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So you got to be aware of what you're doing in that and change it and kind of stop the insanity. So I'm a Gary V fan, Gary Vaynerchuk. Anybody else Gary V fans? I love Gary Vaynerchuk. So Gary just says one thing. He says, he's GSD, get shit done, right? And so it's the implementers and the executors. So for everybody on this session today, can you do yourself a favor? Don't do it for Alex. Don't do it for Joe. Don't do it for Crystal. Don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. When we leave today, pick one, maybe two, maximum 3 ideas. 1, 2, or 3 ideas from today's session. And commit that you're going to implement and execute what you took away today. Implement and execution. So you got to be an implementer, you got to be an executor, because thoughts are just thoughts and ideas if they're not implemented and acted on. And so just encourage you to just pick 1, 2, maybe maximum 3 ideas today. write them down at the end of our session, and then just say, these are the ones I'm going to commit to. I've always asked people, and you don't have to put your hand up, but how many of us have learned some really good stuff? I know Alex and Joe both have phenomenal training. I saw you guys had some sessions last week, packed house on listing presentation skills. You got stuff going on all the time. But here's the question for all of us. Have we learned a bunch that we have not actually acted on, implemented, and executed? I don't think most of us are short of any ideas or any concepts or any skills that we haven't learned, but we just for some reason haven't implemented and executed and acted on the dang great idea that the person that trained us and gave us that, right? What an awesome idea, what an awesome session. Haven't done anything about it, haven't acted on it, done anything about it, but what a great idea, what a great concept. So I'd encourage you, stop the insanity. We don't need another session this morning of ideas of like, oh my gosh, I really like that idea, that and this, that. But like all the other sessions and that, I'll get to it when I get time in that. But because I don't know why so think about what's holding you back. What's stopping you from taking those things that you've already learned? We all know that we've learned too much and that we have not implemented it all. So that's all I'm asking you is one, maybe two, maximum three ideas, but leave today's session and commit to implementation, commit to execution. That's how you pivot. That's how you shift. That's how you change things up. That's how you get momentum in your business and in your personal life. So, top reasons why agents are failing. Number one, a lot of agents are just interested in real estate. Trust me, real estate at this time of year is very interesting for sure. But at the end of the day, there's a difference between being interested in this business and commitment to this business, right? And so I understand that you may require other jobs, you may require other things and things like that to navigate this marketplace. But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Am I all in? Am I committed to this? This is what I really want to do in that. And you just can't be interested. You got to be committed. It's changed. It's different. It's a different landscape in that. I love this professionals market, but it isn't for everybody. Number two, they're not looking for the data, like Alex was saying. We found these migration numbers and these super interesting data and statistics and these reports that take the time and use and look at the data. But I said to Alex, the most important thing is today is I'm going to just spend more time explaining the why behind the how. Everybody's has this little voice. If you haven't read Blair Singer's book, The Little Voice Mastery, it's a great book, Little Voice Mastery by Blair Singer. We all have this little voice. Little voice says every time Wade puts out a concept or Joe says something or Alex says something or you hear something, two things come out of our little voice. So what? What's in it for me? Every single time. So what? What's in it for me? Well, that's nice. So what? What's in it for me? Right? And so that little voice is going all the time. And so we're going to look at the why behind the how today. We're going to look at why is the data so important and how do I use that data and why do I want to implement and execute and put that into play? And we're going to talk about that in deeper today in number two. Number three, fear, false evidence appearing real, right? So when I started in sales, it was 1991. I got a job selling encyclopedias for Colliers, door to door, Saskatchewan. True story. We had to knock on 350 doors a night, you guys, in Kindersley, Carrabrook, Adenac, these little country bumpkin towns in Saskatchewan. I have been told where to go and how to get there in more versions than anybody can imagine on this call. And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, is that all you got? Kind of thing. You're like, it's okay. Like, that's the worst thing is that. And Canadians are so kind because they always tell you where to go and how to get there. And they always use please or thank you with it. So, how kind is that, right? And that because we're just Canadians and we're so polite and we're so courteous, right? So, at the end of the day, I always think and write this down. It's just that they're rejecting my service at this particular point in time. They're not rejecting me. They're just rejecting the opportunity to provide my service at this particular point in time, not any point in time, at this particular point in time. And it's not a rejection towards me. So one of the things that we have to realize is that I'm just one no closer to a yes. I'm just one more no closer to a yes. And so just realizing that and being able to navigate that and manage that and not beat ourselves up and not take it personal is one of those things that we really have to focus on. All right, number 4, proactive versus reactive. You have to do proactive activities. You can't wait. So one of the things I noticed really evident was that the veteran agents in 2021, when things got out of control and things heated up, is that a buyer's agent that used the old process, and there's nothing wrong with this process. We used to just check the hot sheets and check the dailies and look for new listings and look for new inventory that came out. Well, how'd that work out when there was no inventory? Right? No listings, no inventory coming on. But my whole practice was watching the hot sheets of the dailies and looking for buys and buying opportunities. And we're on. So now we had to become creators and we had to get off the waiting train and start creating train. This is one of those markets where you need to proactively implement and execute an action to get an action back, a response back. So get off the waiting train and get on the creating train and doing that. How many people would agree with me? We list and market sellers' properties to achieve the best price possible for them with our marketing efforts and our negotiating skills. So we take on sellers and we market properties on the behalf of the sellers. How many agree that the other thing that we do and we have to consistently do regularly is create buying opportunities? So are there buying opportunities right now in your marketplace? Yes, absolutely. Now, my next question is, what are the opportunities? Who are we telling? How are we telling? And how are we creating those opportunities? How do we create buying opportunities, right? So I'll share a little story. I used to do my Kelowna's top 10. So when I was an agent and selling in that, every Friday I'd post out Kelowna's top 10. And so they were the top 10 properties that I thought were the best buys that I would throw out on a weekly basis, right? And then all of a sudden my phone would start to ring. Hey, you seem to have the finger on the pulse. Hey, you seem to know where the buying opportunities are. You seem to know where things are happening or where things are shaking out. We got a few bucks and we'd like to get in the market and we'd like to put our money in that. And we're wondering if you'd be able to help us. Is there anybody on this call would like to get those kind of calls, those kind of opportunities, those kind of things that with people with large amounts of money that would like you to help them, show them where to put it in the marketplace? So that perception of me just doing those top 10 weekly and that created those investors, created those buyers, created those people starting to come out of the woodwork and come towards me, which I didn't see that coming, but I'm glad I did that and consistently do that. So are you creating opportunities or are you waiting for opportunities? Number 5, just the work-life balance challenge, the hours and the time of day that we have to commit to this. It's a definite challenge in being flexible with our schedule and that. But at the end of the day, you just have to understand that you need to go when it's time to go and you need to reload when it's time to reload. Number 6, do you have a daily, weekly action plan? I'm going to share one of my nuggets this session today, this morning, is just the sit down Sunday. And so one of the best things my coaching clients said that I gave to them this year was the sit down Sunday. And it's a concept where I will help you guys finish your week before your week begins with the sit down Sunday. So having a weekly plan and a daily plan. Without picking on anybody, but how many people are mastered being consistently inconsistent? How many people are consistently inconsistent and got it mastered? How many people struggle with consistently being consistent, right? So it's one of those challenges with most people is that we're consistently inconsistent. We kind of get going and start doing things out of fear, out of desperation, or out of frustration, or a different reason. That's kind of not the kind of way where you're busy and then you're dead, and then you're busy and you're dead, and you got to get going and then you got to slow down. You got to get going and you're up and down and that's not a really good pace and flow to your energy level. Number 7, what to say and how to say it. Would you agree that we are all mastering or trying to figure out a communications? We're in the communications business, the business. So how do you say things? How do you communicate and how do you communicate properly? Is there anybody on the session that's read the book, The Full Fee Agent? Chris Voss's new book. Have you read it yet, Alex or Joe? Chris Voss has got a new book out. The guy that wrote Never Split the Difference. Such a great book. He came out with a new book called The Full Fee Agent. And it has nothing to do with about you protecting your fees or your commissions or your value proposition. It has everything to do about how to communicate and what to say and how to say it. Such a good book, such a great read. Highly recommend it for everybody on the call. And just understanding how to be a strategic, empathetic questioner. It's not by chance that we had two of these and one of these. We're supposed to be doubling up on the listening and halving up on what we're saying in that. But more importantly, he just talks about how to ask the questions. So I'll give you a quick little synopsis. We are all addicted to hearing the answer from our clients. Wade, you're right. You're right. We're addicted to hearing that. It feeds my ego. It makes me feel special because they're saying I'm right in that. And we're addicted to that. So we ask questions that are leading them to answer, yes, you're right, Wade. But what we want to do is ask the questions that make them feel like they are heard or they are understood. And they are saying, Wade, that's right. Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. So the book is challenging you to change how you communicate, change what you say and how you say it, to move away from being addicted to that, you're right, and get over to the, yes, that's so right. That's exactly that. You understand me. And just being able to build that trust. And so just encourage you to look at that book and read that. For me, it was a game changer in just really understanding how to communicate and how to communicate more effectively and get people to really feel like they've understood. They are understood. They're understood and communicated, and they feel comfortable and trusted. Number 8, they don't understand their own ratios. So we're going to talk about ratios today and dive into them. What are the numbers there? What are my listing appointments to listing contract to conversion rates? What are my ratios on communications? What are my completions and to subject removals and collapses? And what are my concessions and commissions? What are my ratios and what are my stats and what are my numbers in that? And looking at the industry's numbers, looking at your ratios, looking at the industry's ratios, looking at the brokerage's ratios, and understanding those ratios and how do we improve them or how do we actually use them more effectively. Number 9, the lack of a personal brand. So nobody's paid me to say this, but I'm noticing that there's an emphasis on personal brands taking over corporate brands. Let me ask you this question. Who would have thought that Canada's real estate company brand would have been such a powerful, powerful thing politically, what's going on in North America this year? Who would have thought that Canada's real estate company, that our branding and that our positioning on a corporate branding level and that it would have been so effective and so time sensitive in that with what's going on politically in that. So I'm just an advocate of saying that, guys, we need to understand that our personal brand and our national corporate brand need to be aligned together in concert, right? So when we think that, and this is my own personal opinion, when we think we're bigger than the 112, 113 year brand, we're bigger than a company that's Canada's real estate company, right? And that we have this brand and this recognition that, and there's a reason why our signs colors were chosen. The reason why is that the more we mix it all up, the more we pull away from, the more we wash it all up. Guys, do you think that the Coke can will ever change? It'll never change. There's a reason why it'll never change, because it's a recognizable brand. It's top of mind. That brand under the page level and that in corporate like needs to be there, recognizable in concert with your own personal brand. So I'm not picking on anybody that's pulling on their own personal brand, but I'm just emphasizing that I think there's a real importance and a real understanding that your personal brand and the national brand just be aligned and in concert together, and just make sure that we have a presence consistent with all of us in our area and having a more powerful impact and effect using that brand. Last one is just how we do anything is how we do everything. One of my favorite expressions. How we do anything is how we do everything. What are your habits, right? And I'm not picking on anybody here or using examples, but so I'm a bit of a tardy freak, let's just say. So friends of mine are architectures, and they came over for dinner one night, and Shirley and Jim were late, and they don't mind me sharing their names on this recording, but they're late for dinner, and my kids kind of know where I stand with being late, and so while we're having dinner in the first few bites, Jude, my son, puts his fork down. He looks at Jim and Shirley and says, "You're late." my dad doesn't like people that are late. He's like 7 years old, and Jim and Shirley just about choke on their meal and they're dying and things like that. But at the end of the day, like how we do anything is how we do everything in that. And so just have that awareness and understand that what are my habits? Right? What are the things that I keep doing over and over again and I want to change, but I'm not? And what's holding me back and what's causing me to be stuck in those habits? So there are the ways that I think that we're struggling where agents are finding that in that, and we're going to dive into some of those today and talk about it. So in our first section here, moving forward, we're going to cover off a few things here, but first things first, we're going to talk about just the me and working on me. Has anybody read Og Mandino's World's Greatest Miracle, the book Og Mandino, World's Greatest Miracle? So if you haven't read it, such a good read in that. So does everybody know who the world's greatest miracle is? It's you, right? And so the irony of it is that we're so focused on serving others that we forget to serve ourselves, right? And so just being aware of that and taking care of it and stuff and looking at it. So this is the Pareto example out of the Oz Principle. So this is a book out of the Oz Principle, a page out of it in your book. So on page 2 of your booklet there, this is one of my favorite examples. This is the 80-20 rule and a different way of looking at it. So there's this invisible line in the world, you guys. There's this invisible line. You'll see the line here. And 20% are above that line and 80% are below that line. And this is just a great visual of what the 20 do versus the 80 do. So the 20 that are above the line, they have a vision, they have purpose, they have a why. They own things. When things in life happens, when shit happens, life happens, they say, hey, what did I learn? What am I going to do different? What's next, right? They're not wallowing in it and sitting in it and victimizing themselves, right? They're always thinking about where are the solutions? What are the workarounds? Where do I get that? And they're implementers and executors. So those are the traits of the 20% that live above that line. Living below the line, they're the victims, right? They're blaming others. They're blaming others, something else or everything else in that. They're in the denial mode. They're in the excuse mode. They're waiting for things to come to them instead of creating and acting on things. They're passive in that. So just thinking about it, you have the ability to choose when to catch yourself when you're below that line. Do I get below the line? Absolutely do I get below the line, right? Let's be honest. It's just habits again. So you just have to have that awareness that, and my kids are like, hey, are we playing above the line right now, or are we playing below the line? My kids will be like, below the line. Where do we play? We play above the line in our house and that, right? And so they understand the concept of catching themselves and moving themselves from below the line and moving up above the line. So I hope that this example, it gives you a good representation of what the actions are and what separates the 20 from the 80%, and what the difference is, and the characteristics of what they do and how they do it. Okay, so don't become a prisoner of your own reality, right? Set and set a life worth living. So let's just jump into your workbooks. Can everybody just pull up their workbooks and their workbooks and that? And I just want to quickly go through these reflection questions to start us off in section 1 here. So page 4 on your booklet here says, first question is the answer is yes, no, or somewhat. Do you feel like you have a solid strategy or plan in place that'll move you in the direction of your goals? Do you feel like you have a strategy or a plan? Are you winging it, or are you strategically navigating and have a plan of action? Number 2, are you living your life or building a business by design on your terms, rather than just by chance, by default, and just letting things happen? So are you creating the life that's worth it? I've learned after 55 years and 33 years in real estate, there is only one thing that gives this guy the greatest amount of joy. It is doing the cool things with the coolest people in my life. That is what gives me joy. When I get to hang out with Alex and his son and catch salmon on Vancouver Island, or go fly fishing and do all those things with the cool things and that is what gives me the most joy. So I work to live, because fishing is living for this guy. What's living for you? What's living for you in that? What are you working for to live? Not living to work. You're working to live. Does that make sense in that? And be able to design that life. Number 3, do you live and work proactively, or are you just passive and reactive? Are you proactive? Are you a creator or are you a waiter? Be deadly honest with yourself. Am I creating or am I just waiting? Okay. Do I continue to think, act, behave in the manner in the last few years that'll still keep me happy? Will it give me joy? Are things going the way I want them to do, or do I need to pivot? Do I need to shift? If they are, great. If they're not, what do I need to do different? What have I learned? What do I do next? Number five, do I implement the ideas and strategies that I've learned just this past today or the past year? Have I implemented, and why haven't I? Why haven't you? Why haven't you implemented those ideas? Why haven't you implemented those strategies? Great question for yourself. See what it is and deep down and explore what's holding you back, what's sticking you and what's getting you stuck. Number six, are you organized, focused on what's important and getting things done? So full disclosure, just so you know, personality profile, Myers-Briggs, this guy here, a driver, expressive. I couldn't organize a birthday party, but man, can I throw a hell of a birthday party. And can I be the party? That makes sense. But I've understood that I need to find someone or something that I can delegate or implement or execute or have take over for me, right? Because I'm not just going to wake up one day and just be this organized, analytical, intentional person. So I'm such a train wreck that I have two executive assistants, and those executive assistants are worth every single penny because this guy starts tons of things. And then my executive assistants, God bless them, they finish everything that I start. And I've realized that where my strengths are and my weaknesses are, and being able to do that. So you're not going to wake up one day and just change things but find people, find processes to fill in the gaps that the personality traits that you are not. Does that make sense? Find people and process and fill in the gaps in what you don't do best and get them to implement and execute versus you trying to struggle and you trying to figure out how you're going to be analytical, how you're going to be organized in that. So I just surround myself with people and processes that help me fill in those gaps in my own business. Number seven, are you satisfied with the amount of time you spend with friends and family? Is there work-life balance? Be honest. Number eight, are you satisfied with your income level? Are you satisfied with your income level? So I know this is a tough statement, but I believe that the money you're earning, the income that you're achieving is the value that the marketplace sees in you and your ability in real estate. Arguably, it's the value you see in yourself and your ability yourself. I'll repeat that. What you're being paid and what you're earning is what the value or what the marketplace sees in your skills and your abilities and your value in the marketplace. More importantly, I think it's a direct correlation of what you believe you bring to the marketplace and what you bring in that. So if there's anybody else that's tough and hard on themselves, anybody else had a dad that raised them that they got a B in social studies and your dad's first comment was, well, why wasn't it an A? And you're like, really, man? That was in social studies. It wasn't in PE or like lunch hour. It was in social studies. So I'm my worst own critic in that, and I'm hard on myself. So you have to be aware of that and be cognizant of that. So are you satisfied with your income level? Are you satisfied at your worth, your own self-worth? Number nine, do you know what you are passionate about? So anybody read the book, The Power of Focus? Power of Focus, written by Canfield, Victor Hansen, and Les Hewitt. So Les Hewitt's actually a Canadian author. He's from Calgary. He's actually one of my own personal business coaches. And Les and I worked together, and Les said, wait, we're going to get you in the next 3 to 5 years to just do the things that you love the most, that you're the best at, that you do the most and do the so good at and so strong in that. And I said to him, yeah, whatever. You got to do it all, man. You got to juggle it all. I use this analogy. Realtors are like plate spinning, right? You got to spin this plate and spin this plate and this plate and keep all the plates spinning and that and hope that none of them fall and hit the ground. And that is the furthest thing from the truth, right? So if you take time today or in the next week or so and that and write down what are you passionate about in real estate? What do you love doing the most in that? And figure out a way that you just get to play in your lane and what you do and what you love best. How incredibly effective would that be? What would your income do? How much more fun would you have in that? So a good broker friend of mine called me and I said, he's trying to think about what he do. And I said, what do you love most? And he said, well, I love to coach higher level people and I like to recruit. I said, well, then figure out a way to just do those two things. So Les challenged me. And true story, that's all I do. I love to spend time with people like yourself, learners or earners. I love being able to share with ideas and that and help people grow and personally know. I love that. Now, I love and miss playing the negotiating game. I love to negotiate. I miss that. You guys get to do that every day, and I miss that. But I clearly know in 33 years of what I love to do and what I'm passionate about, and I'm encouraging you to figure out a way to just do the things that you love and that you do well and that you do most effective, and figure out someone else or something else that can fill in those other gaps if that helps. I thought it wasn't possible. I know it is possible. Takes time and intentional thinking and strategy, but you can get there. Number 10, what are your talents? What are your strengths, right? Uh, has anybody read the book, What Color's My Parachute? So great book on personality profiling, Myers-Briggs, DISC. Just understanding who you are as a person, understanding what your talents are, understanding what your strengths are, and knowing what they are and having that awareness and diving in there. And then starting to be able to identify your clients and your customers and what makes them tick and what makes them go, right? So knowing body language by personality profiles, what they wear, what they drive, how they say, how they act, and that. There's all these different things that you can learn on profiling that you can understand about yourself and what makes you tick, and then what makes your clients tick and what makes your customers do that and that. And so think about that. So those are just some questions to start off to just take a check and just take a role play and role check on where you're at today and where you'd like to be and what you could change up. Was that helpful on page 4 there? Just to give you some perspective? Okay. All right. Let's go to the next section here. So the next section we're going to move on to here, please, is just basically a gap analysis. So on page 5, this is my favorite coaching tool. So if we started and worked together in that, this would be the first thing that we do here in that. So on this sheet, we're not going to have a whole bunch of time, but just take a few minutes and look at this real quick and look at each of these topics and circle the topics that you know that you could improve in. So section number 1 is, how good are you at objections and stalls and conditions and objection handling? How are you good at answering and responding to hand grenades that are thrown at you? Next one, how good are you at playing the negotiating game? Has your negotiating skills been truly tested this year? Oh, have they ever, right? How many people have got Mr. and Mrs. paid too much, want too much, and need too much as a seller? Come on, nobody has Mr. and Mrs. paid too much, need too much, want too much. Of course, we've got them all. That's every seller, every listing, right? And so there's negotiating skills. And how are those skills? Have you read Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference? What are you doing to sharpen that sword? What are you doing to sharpen that? What's your closing appointment skills like? What are your skills in converting prospects to appointments? What are your buyer counseling skills? What are your seller counseling skills? Would you agree that a lot of these things in the first section are a required element and skill in this market? Yes or no? Did we need them in 2021? No, we didn't need any of this crap. What we needed was to get the buyer that was willing to pay the most insane amount of money over every other bidder and every other 30, 40 persons and that. That was that. We didn't learn a damn thing in 2021 and 2022. So now we're trying to figure out what we need to do and what to do. So this is a gap analysis or a blind spot analysis on your skills and on your business and on yourself. Does that make sense? It's just helping you identify where you could make improvements. What's your listing appointment skills like? Do you have a pre-appointment package or something to deliver to somebody in advance in case you're up against somebody else? What are your SOPs like? Do you have a standard operating procedure for everything? Right? Checklists, people, process. Do you have those systems in place? Those checklists? Do you have consistent lead gen prospecting? Do you have proactive, regular, consistent activities? Are you following up? Do you have work-life balance? Do you have leverage? Do you have a plan? Do you have your finances in place in that? So this document here, what we do is we just look at where are some of the blind spots, where are some of the gaps, and where are some of the areas that we could maybe spend time on improving and doing that, right? And doing that. And then also identifying this is a great sheet to identify what you love to do and what you're really, really good at, and that you should try to get to the point where that's all you're doing in your business day to day. Does that make sense too? So you can use this tool for two different ways: identifying the gaps and the blind spots, but also helping you really understand what you're good at, what you do best, and where your strengths are, and that you could get yourself focused on and doing on a consistent basis. Any questions on page 4? Any questions on page 5? Any questions on any of that mindset or any of that stuff that we have first? Anybody got a question there? We're good? Moving right along. Okay, so next section. So value proposition. So what do we deliver? Here's what I believe is required in this market, in this marketplace, in this market time. We require and we bring qualifying skills to the marketplace, right? So how do you qualify and can you qualify for a seller? How do you qualify and do that? Do you have the negotiating skills? Do you have the right real estate internet tools? So if someone lists with us, the number one site is realtor.ca, the number two site is Royal LePage Canada site. So if they list with us, they're now on the number one and the number two real estate website in Canada on a national level. We bring contract writing skills. We bring tenure and experience and knowledge between our peers, our brokers of record, all of the people that we can interact with. We have to bring administration skills and coordination skills because all these professionals, all these service providers, all these people are involved. And more importantly, we have the errors and omissions insurance. Is that important if things go sideways? Yes or no? Right? So would you agree that these are the things, and see, these are some of the things that are most important, that why people would want to hire us and why they would require us. In 2021, they didn't really, be honest, need us, right? Other than to navigate multiple offers and shuffle around a bunch of deals and just say, this is the best one. This is the one we should take. That really didn't take much skill. It just took a whole bunch of us going through documents and paperwork and things like that. So now we've got to bring to the fold qualifying skills, negotiating skills, the number one, the number two website for their listing to get exposure globally, contract writing skills, the tenure and experience and knowledge in that, administration coordination skills of all the service providers and people involved, and we bring insurance and coverage in case, for heaven forbid, there's any actions or any activities or any mistakes. Okay, so that, I believe, is the value proposition and how we're communicating. I don't know why it's so difficult for most people to be able to understand what they bring and what they're offering and what they're trying to provide for it. I think the number one skill for us for value proposition for a buyer is that I'll go find it. I create a buying opportunity for my buyer. I don't wait for a buying opportunity for my buyers like everyone else. Does that make sense? And would I want to hire somebody that finds me something off market that could be a little bit better value, could be a bit of an opportunity and things like that? Or do I want to just wait for somebody that just waits for the hot sheets and brings me all the same listings that everybody else is bringing me on a regular basis? So I think that our value proposition is the proactive approach from buyer side of the point. And these are the other value skills that you bring from a value proposition. Okay, so people ask me why in your booklet. Let's turn to the next pages there. So in your booklet, if you look at page 11 and the core values, page 11, core values. Can everybody see that page on page 11? There's core values. So this was a document provided from one of the universities that I found online, and it displays all the core values of people's philosophical beliefs and ideas in that. And why this is in here is that I'm going to encourage you to do this. And here's the why behind the how. First question is, how many people find it difficult for us to differentiate ourselves from being a commodity? What are the myths out there? Most people believe that all the agents are the same, all your services are the same, all your marketing's the same, all the brokerage is the same, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. So the one reason why I added core values and why I added a mission statement and a purpose statement on the next page, so page 11 and 12, why I added those is that I'm going to give you the greatest differentiator gift in the marketplace that can set you apart. Okay, so if you took the core values and you took the mission and the purpose statement, you can create a tool like this. So how many people would agree that you would have a unique mission statement, you would have your own unique purpose statement, and you would have, out of all those pages, you'd have 6 core values and philosophical beliefs and ideas that would be unique to you, yes? And then you can take those and build a visual tool and use this tool like this. So if you want to unmute, where are places where you could use this tool effectively in your work field, in your workplace? Where could you use these tools effectively? Could I put it in my website? Could I put it in my presentations? Could I put it in my packaging? Could I put it in my marketing? So think about this. This tool is a differentiator. It's a game changer. It's a set me apart, but also it's a litmus test. It's an alignment tester. So what I like about this is it tests my alignment with my clients. I'll repeat that. We have the gift to choose who we want to work with. What did he say? We have the gift to choose who we want to work with in this business, the greatest gift ever. But we don't have enough leads. We don't have enough clients. We don't have enough relationships. We don't have enough transactions or enough money. So we're just forcing ourselves to believe that we have to work with anybody and everybody. And that is not the place that we want to be. So I use this as a test for me to make sure that I'm the right fit for these people. So Alex and Joe, I actually use this same tool when I interview people and coming into my office in Kelowna. So I'll share our core values, I'll share our mission statement, our purpose statement, and someone in the interview will say like, couldn't agree with you more. Oh, that resonates with me. Oh, that's exactly who I believe in too, and that. Or they'll say to me, you know what, Wade? I don't really believe in that mumbo jumbo shit and everything else and that. And then I'm like, they're not our people. They're not my alignment. They're not in there and that. And it's a great test of alignment in that. And would you agree that I want to align with all my clients and align with the people that I want to attract, engage? So you're sharing your mission statement. So let me explain the difference between a mission and a purpose. Your mission is the macro or the logic or the head statement. I'll repeat. It's like your corporate, your macro, your head, or your statement of head and knowledge and logic. Your purpose is the heart statement. It's the why, it's the touch, it's the feel. So one is head, one is heart. 2 different messages, 2 different statements, 2 different reasons why you have those 2 statements in there. And then if you use this chat prompt, you can just take a picture of this. You can use this chat prompt. So full disclosure, you can stick your core values, you can put in there, and you can have chat use this as a tool to help you write these mission statements, to write these core values, to write a value proposition, to write a statement, your elevator speech, or whatever you want to call it. And then you can use AI to help you integrate this. Okay. So you're trying to build your elevator speech, your value proposition, your intentional piece that separates you but also attracts in that, and be able to have a mission and a purpose and a philosophical statement and a tool that you can use to set yourself out in the marketplace. How many people feel that that would be helpful? Good. Okay. So I'll send the slides, I'll send all the information, I'll send all this that you can use, including Sarah's sample, right? And be able to do that. And I encourage you guys to build it. The chat prop, all the slide deck, all of this, I'll include it. Okay, the last section in your book on section 1 on personal development is page number 13. And let's just talk about goals and goal setting, and we'll be quick on this. So goals and goal setting. So goals and goal setting is interesting. So I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey. I'm a big fan of personal development and that. And many of them suggest this, and I'll give you this little nugget from a goal setting perspective, okay? So when you set goals, please consider setting the goals in 90-day increments. I repeat, consider setting your goals in 90-day increments. So the little voice is saying, what the heck is he talking about? 90 days. Why 90 days? So what, Wade? What's in it for me? Okay. So question number 1, how many of us on this call are overachievers and you set your goals and you crush through them in 20, 30, 40 days. You need to do them every 90 days because you've got to set new ones every 90 days because you're crushing through them and you need another Northern Star every 90 days for those overachievers and those A-type personality people in the call. Now, for those people that are the procrastinators, ooh, I'll get to it. Mañana, no problem. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Tomorrow, right? Every 90 days, you need a little kick in the ass to remind yourself that you need to act on your goals that you set 90 days. So it's a reminder to kick you in the pants to actually do something about those goals and do something about that. So I like the concept of 90-day goals based on me redoing them if I'm an achiever, or me getting a kick in the ass by me trying to look at them again, review them, reset them, or actually act on them this second 90 days in my quarter of my year. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay. Last but not least, here is another little goal setting nugget. Okay. So nugget number 2 for you is not just the 90 days, but when you write down a goal, could you please add the answers to the following questions after each of your goals is written down? Could you answer the questions who, what, where, when, why, and how? So write down the goals and then write down the answers to the questions who, what, where, when, why, and how. Let me give you an example. So I know Alex and I, we just love going to the gym. We love working out. It's so much fun. So it's up there with a root canal and an enema for this guy, but I know it's important. So my goal for this last quarter was to lose 30 pounds. So I don't write down lose 30 pounds. What I write down 30 pounds and then I write down training with Kevin, my personal trainer, who beats me into submission every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And then on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays on my home gym elliptical that usually just carries my dry cleaning and hangs all my shirts so nicely in the gym area there in my home, and that actually use that dang thing. And then I start writing down what I'm eating and when I'm eating and how I'm eating, and then I write down why. So I'll get a little bit personal here, guys. So my dad, God bless him, he's 76 this year, and his liver's failing, and he's not well, and he's dying. So for me, this year was a wake-up call. And so it's been one of those years where you're like, hey, you take your health for granted, and I've had a wake-up call with my dad this year. My best school grade friend is actually just been diagnosed with blood cancer and bone cancer, and like we're in our mid 50s, right? And you're like, what the heck is going on, kind of thing. So I'm just realizing that my why is that to make it think that I'm any different than my dad. If you met my dad, him and I are genetically predisposed. I am my father's son, right? So to think that I'm not going to have liver disease or I'm not going to have organ issues or anything like that in the next 20 years, I'm probably kidding myself. So my new why now is that I want to be able to avoid that and navigate that in my 70s and not have to do that. I want to be able to golf. I want to be able to fly fish. I want to be able to do the things that I want to do and travel in that and the next 20 years. So I have to have a why, a motivating factor to want to have to do more than just lose 30 pounds. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm answering all of those questions of who, what, where, when, why, and how, and diving deeper with my goals and being more intentional and strategic and deep diving with those goals. And now I like my chances of actually accomplishing those goals. Does that make sense? Okay. So goal setting every 90 days. Goal setting. Answer and write down the goal and answer the questions who, what, where, when, why, and how after each goal. And just go through that. Now, if you're needing a guide for the areas of your goals, if you scroll back to page number 9 in your guide, look at that little circle guide on page 9. If you circle back to that, there are your categories for goal setting each 90 days. Can I get a thumbs up, right? So there are your categories for your goal setting categories each and every 90 days. Physical health, financial well-being, relationships, lifestyle, family, business, mental health, and spiritual. right? Or happiness or fun. So this will give you your categories for what to set goals in every 90 days when you look at that wheel and when you look back at that on page 9. Okay. And then quickly before we wrap up this first section on page 10, I usually get you to do 2 things here. So I'm sure everybody knows what a SWOT is, right? So understanding strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So 2 topics for SWOT, please. I'd encourage you to do a SWOT on yourself. What are Wade's strengths? What are Wade's weaknesses? What are Wade's opportunities? What are Wade's threats in 2026? And then second, what are the market? What's the real estate market? What are the strengths in the market? Where are the opportunities? Where are the weaknesses? Where are the threats in real estate in the market in 2026? I'll close with this last little story on the SWOT analysis. So I learned this from Darren Hardy from Success Magazine. Darren had this little task where he said, send 3 people that know you well. Send 3 people this email with 3 questions. So I wrote out this email, I wrote out these 3 questions, and I sent them to 3 people that I believe really knew me and really knew who I was. Question number 1 was I asked them, what were my gifts? What were my talents? What are my strengths? What are my gifts? What are my talents? What are my strengths? Question number 2, where do they see my strengths being my weakness? Where do they see my strengths becoming my weakness? Question number 3, where do they see me self-sabotage or self-criticize and beat myself up? Where do they see me self-sabotage or self-criticize and beat myself up? So crazy exercise. I sent it to 3 people that I dearly respect and believe that know me well in that. None of them knew that I was sending it to each of them. They all came back week or 2 later, some right away. And ironically, all 3 questions were answered by all 3 people, and they all had the exact same information, not by chance, right? So it was an awareness for me to see, what are my gifts? What are my strengths from 30,000 feet, from a different perspective? Where are my strengths become my weakness, right? And then where do I self-sabotage or where do I self-criticize and am I too hard on myself? Okay. So great exercise, great way of doing it differently and doing a SWOT and getting response and getting outlook and getting feedback. Okay, so section 1 in the goal setting section is up to page 13 in your booklet. Okay, so mindset, personal development, goal setting, right? Your culture and your core values and your mission statement and your purpose statement, your SWOT analysis, your work-life balance, your gap and reality check analysis. Are there any questions on any of those pages up to page 13? Were they helpful? Good? Perfect? Okay. All right. Alex, maybe we'll just take a 2-3 minute break and then I'll move into section 2. After that, just take 2-3 minutes. Is that good?
That sounds perfect.
Okay, we'll give 2-3 minutes in that, and then we're going to jump back into the second section. So now we're going to look at ratios, statistics, the data. Thank you to those that provided Crystal and the team there for providing me data in that. We're going to look at what the numbers are saying in the market numbers and the data and the ratios in that when we come back, and we'll take a 2-3 minute break and then we'll jump into that.
Perfect. See you in a minute.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, everybody, bringing everybody back. Just give you a minute to get back onto your computers there. A short break here. All right, so just recapping and summarizing the first section of the business plan. So we've got the mindset component, we've got the work-life balance component, we've got the visual with the core values and the mission and purpose statement, we've got goal setting, SWOT analysis, all the different things where we can look at a gap and a gap analysis and just be able to take time and look at our own selves, our own business and that, and see what we can do and how we can change and what lessons we learned in 2025 and what we can optimize and what we can change and do in 2026. Section 2 is looking at ratios. Section 2 is looking at the market and the market numbers. So we're going to start with the numbers, and the numbers never lie. After all, they simply just tell different stories, and history and data and that continues to repeat itself. And so if you look at the numbers and spend enough time looking at them and understanding them, you can see where there's opportunity. You can see where things are trending and where things are happening. So on your page 14, I've given you a guideline and a list of questions that you can identify and look into your system. So, Joe, what MLS system do you guys use in your marketplace? Is it Matrix, Paragon, Interface?
Yeah, it's Matrix.
Matrix? Perfect. We're Matrix too. So you can get this information off of Matrix. You can get this information off your Treb stats. You can get this information off of chat or Google. There's many, many resources where you can find this information and get this intel and that. But again, I want to go back to understanding the why behind the how. So why do we want to know what average price is? Why do we want to know what median price is? Why do we want to know what the days on market are? Why do we want to know what the ask price to sale price ratio percentage is? Why do I want to know what the expiry rate is? Listings taken versus listings sold. Why do I want to know what total sales are in single family detached or semi-detached or multi or residential farm or acreage? Why do I want to know where the listings are and the total listing numbers are and how they've differentiated? Why do I want to know what the top price ranges are? Why do I want to know what the top property types are? What do I want to know what the top neighborhoods are or the demographics that are generating the market? What are the buyer types? What are the top months for sales? What are the top months for listings? Right? Where are the people coming from? Where are the migration information that Alex and I were talking about earlier and before the session and that? Where are they migrating to and from? Right? And what are the predictions for 2026 and that? And where are we trending? What's happening? So I believe that knowing this data, number one, knowing this data will allow you to increase your engagement and your effectiveness and your value proposition. It improves your personal confidence. It improves your knowledge and ability and things like that. And being able to understand and knowing and doing that. And now Joe Nego uses this phrase all the time. Agents aim for nothing and hit it with incredibly accuracy, right? So you could now be strategic with your efforts and your energy and your lead generation and your marketing and your advertising and that. You could look at what are the price ranges that have the most listings and most sales? Why wouldn't I want to know that? Number one, to tell my clients. Number two, to figure out where the business is and what's happening. Like in Kelowna, when things shifted from under a mill and shifted to 1828 and higher. And why did they do that? And understand what the shift happened and where it's happening. Why do I want to know where the property types are? I don't like it's difficult, probably like you, it's difficult in Kelowna to move a condominium. It's difficult, right? Multi is difficult and challenging. We're overbuilt, we're over leveraged in that. But single family detached, If it's the right property, it's what presented well in this, that, still rolling, right? Still going strong. Prices haven't done anything in single detached in 3 years in Kelowna, but they're taking a bit of a beating and an adjustment in the townhome and the detached and semi-detached. So, and on the condo side. So you're looking at that information and understanding price ranges that are trending for sales and listings. You're looking at property types, you're looking at areas and neighborhoods, you're looking at demographics, you're looking at migration, you're looking at all these different areas. You're looking at the months that are the best for listings and sales in your board because you shouldn't be away. So one of the biggest problems in Kelowna is our best months are May, June, July, August, and September. When are agents not working in Kelowna? May, June, July, and August and September when the fish are biting, right? So it's one of those gifts and curses at the same time that everybody's here playing in Kelowna, and they're actually our best months with the most listings, the most sales, and they're actually the biggest months when people are taking the most amount of time off. I'm not poo-pooing the amount of taking time off. I'm just saying you should take it off when you have a market that allows you to take it off and go away, if that makes sense to you and if that resonates with you. Okay. So understanding the market and doing that. So thank you, Crystal, and looking at those things. I'm going to just share with you. So here's what's trending October compared to October and that in Mississauga. So we've got listing numbers. Obviously, they're increasing. Interesting. They're decreasing in a couple areas there from the listings. But trending up on the other areas there. Sales obviously trending down, but detached, right? Trending up. So I look at these green areas and look, okay, the green areas on Mississauga, there's where the opportunities are. The red areas got to be cautious, got to be particularly careful and looking at that. So you're up in detached listings and semi-detached listings and condos for townhomes, not apartment style. Okay. And you're only up in sales for detached, single family. Everything else is trending down. So there are some opportunities in Mississauga. Now, here are the opportunities and where specifically these opportunities are. So I'm not sure who did this for us, Crystal, but if it was you or one of the broker records and that for doing this, thank you so much. But here are the top areas for farming and for lead gen and prospecting. So you've got East Credit, Churchill Meadows, Erin Mills, right? So you've got all of these different areas here for sales for freehold and single family, and you've got single family detached, and then you've got the top for the condos and that. So now you're able to identify and nail in that these are the neighborhoods I want to stay away from in Mississauga based on the data, and these are the areas I'd like to spend my time, energy, and effort into in Mississauga. Does that make sense to you guys? What's missing here is the dollar ranges, the dollar values. So I would go one step further in Mississauga. You've got the property types and the listings and sales, you've got those, right? And the average price of what's trending in that and what's happening there, and the DOM for there, the days on market. Okay. And then you've got your neighborhoods and sub areas, but deep dive and look in maybe every $50,000 to $100,000 increment and figure out what price ranges are trending up versus what price ranges are trending down in Mississauga. Okay. And look at that information and now plan your marketing, plan your digital, plan your physical, plan your thing based on what the data is sharing with you. Here's Milton. So again, opportunity, semi-detached listings up, townhomes up, condo style townhouse up, right? But down in detached and down in apartment style. Again, sales now, more importantly, sales up. And 3 of the 5 categories, sales are up. Look at condo townhomes, up dramatically. Don't know why, but there's probably a reason why the data says that they're up dramatically, right? And then you can see what your days on market are trending and doing that in Milton. And then here are the Milton neighborhoods. So detached and freehold, Ford, Clark, Harrison, Beatty, and Wilmot. Condos, Dempsey, Milton, Timberlake, Wilmot, and Clark. And then stay away from these particular areas here. Okay, so again, look at Milton if you work the Milton market and look at what price ranges are trending with the most listings and what price ranges are trending with the most sales and see if you can get a feel for that because we've got property types and we've got areas. We're just missing the price ranges that are trending. Okay, the reason why I say that is up until July, you didn't want a listing over $1.5 million in Kelowna. Now, all of a sudden, everybody kind of shied away from them and they didn't take them. And everybody that did have the listings from July, August, September, and October in Kelowna over 1.5, they're like, woohoo, start the car. This stuff is selling now and that. And they got lucky where everybody was like, oh gosh, I'm not listing that inventory. I'm not going to take on that inventory. That'll be bleeding me. You know what cost is for marketing that property at? And now all the people that took the risk and listed those properties over 1.5 are starting the car and hitting it home and knocking it out of the park. Here's Brampton area. If you're working the Brampton area, you've got opportunities of listings in detached and semi-detached. You've got sales trending up in semi-detached and townhomes and then trending down in other areas. Again, your DRM and your days on market are all there for your data. Then moving into the neighborhoods, here are your areas. So Northwest Brampton, Sandringham and Wellington, Fletcher's Meadow, Credit Valley, and Bram East. And then you've got condos, you've got Queen Street, Sandringham, Northwest Brampton, Fletcher's Creek, and Brampton North. Then these are the areas to stay away from that are trending slower and a little bit more challenging. Heart Lake, Queen Street corridor. So look at these areas and look at these trends and look what's happening in that and base your marketing plan and your activity plan more strategic around this. Again, go into Brampton and look at the price ranges and see what price ranges are trending on listings and what price ranges are trending on sales. You've got Hilton Hills. Again, Hilton Hills, nice market, nice numbers here, increases in almost every category but the condo market. Sales numbers trending and nicely in some of the categories there, not so nice in some of the condo market and that. Obviously, a challenging in Halton Hills. But again, didn't get the on Halton Hills, my apologies, we didn't get the neighborhoods of the area. So go into Matrix and look at a search. So it's simple as this, guys. You can just do $100,000 increments and search November 15 to November 15 and just figure out what price ranges and how many listings are in that price range that time period for a year and what listings are there. And I'll just show you what we do in our office because this is how we do it here. So we have 23 and 24, and we're just working on our 25 numbers. So we have total listings. Obviously, they're raising from 23 to 24, and they'll raise again to 25. We've got current listing sitting in the market in November, single family data, mobile data, townhome data, and condo data. So we've broken it off into the property types. So those are listing there for us. And I'm going to send this Excel spreadsheet to Joe and to Crystal and to Alex. You guys can just take my Excel spreadsheet and change it and put in your numbers and put in your data, no problem whatsoever, and manipulate the Excel spreadsheet. Take it and use it and change it, no problem. So I've got on here listings, I've got sales, I've got each property type, and then I've got a search on price and days on market. Then I've also done the expiry rate, the list to sell ratio for expireds, and taking it. So look at the numbers in Kelowna. 67% of all properties in Kelowna are not selling right now this year. Massive, massive amount of inventory not selling. Right? That's 7,000 listings not selling. So there's an opportunity. I know that you have rules and regulations with expireds and people that were, but there's a lot of disappointed people in a lot of different areas. Here's my price ranges. So I did 480 to, like these are the price ranges in Kelowna that I used, 2 million plus. So they start from 480 to 600 and moving up, and got them for listings and got them for sales. And then these are all our different neighborhoods and sub areas here for each thing. So Black Mountain, Big White, Crawford, Dilworth. I did all of that and set it up for that. And then you've got sales trends for prices and listing trends for prices, sales trends for and listing trends for neighborhoods, and going through all that information. Would everybody agree that looking at the data for price ranges, looking at the data for neighborhoods and areas, looking at the data for property types, looking at the data for migration, looking at the data for consumer and demographics, and that would help you build a better, more strategic plan for 2026? Yes or no? Absolutely. And it's there, the information's there. You've just got to get it, gather it, marinate in it, and sit in it, and ask yourself the question, why is this trending this way? Why did the numbers jump on the high end in Kelowna? What's going on and what's happening in that? And where is the puck going to be in 2026? What's going to trend and what's going to happen? Okay. Looking at that. Okay. So I just did a little bit of a thing here on the business analysis, and then I just put in some questions here for you here. So I'm going to just show you another tool that you can use. So when you look at what are the days on market for all property types in your trading area, what is the listing taken versus listing sold expiry rate in your trading area, and what is the asking price to sale price percentage in your area? So figure out what the average agent in your area is performing on days on market, listings taken versus listings sold, and ask price to sale price. And you're probably asking me, Wade, why do I care about what the average agent's doing days on market wise? Why do I care what the average agent's doing on ask price to sale price and average on listings taken versus listings sold? Because then you're going to build, and I'm going to share you this tool with you guys. You're going to build something that looks like this. Okay. So how many would you agree that there's three statistics that a seller really cares about more than anything? This is Jennifer that I coach in the Vancouver market. And in 2023, she had 100% on average asking price to sale price for her listing. In the Vancouver Fraser Valley board, though, the average agent only was producing 97% of asking price. So she created a data and a statistical sheet and a numbers that looks here that is explaining to her sellers that she's netting 3% more than the average agent in the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. Is that an incredibly powerful statistic? Yes or no? For a seller to know that she's generating and netting them 3% higher. Now, I would go one step further on this demonstration, on this visual. I would have put the dollar value amount of the average sale price of what the dollar amount of the 3% would have accumulated to. Does that make sense to you guys? Because I think the dollar amount would have been more impactful than the 3% netting, because 3% they're still wondering, well, how much is that? So go the dollar amount and break that 3% down into the actual dollar amount that you're netting and earning more for a seller. I think that's an incredibly powerful statistic that they want to know. Jennifer was 13 days faster. And then Jennifer sold 87% of her listings versus the average agent only selling 49% of her listings. So 1 in 2 chance with an agent in the Fraser Valley board on that year, but 2 in 3 chances, almost 2.5 in 3 chances of selling with her. Do I want to know if Jen sells home versus listings homes? Is there a difference? Yes or no? There's a huge difference. I want to know that I'm hiring an agent that sells homes. Now, for those of you that are on the call and you're newer and there's a couple of questions you probably have. Well, Wade, what if I don't have anything more than one listing? Well, lucky you. If you sold it, then you're 100%. If asked, you tell the truth that you only had one sale in your stat. But the good news is that you're 100%, right? And it's sold and that. So your data is there. The other question that a lot of people ask me, well, Wade, what if my numbers suck in one of the categories? Or what if they're not any good? Well, I would put the numbers in, because then I know that if one of your numbers is equal to the average agent in the board, or it's less than, at least I know that you're being authentic and transparent and you're being real and honest about your data and it's not skewed. Make sense? The last thing you could do is, if your numbers, you don't have enough data to do your numbers, then you could use your brokerage's numbers and see if you can gather your brokerage's numbers and figure out what their numbers are and what their ratios are. One last statistic that I think I'd want to add on Jen's infographic here, and that is, what is the percentage off of ask price that she negotiates for an average buyer that she represents? I'll repeat that stat. What is the average that she negotiates off of ask when she represents a buyer? So how good of a negotiator is she for a buyer? This one shows me how good of a negotiator she is for a seller, and how many days and quick, and that she sells versus listing properties. I want to know one more. If I'm going to hire her as a buyer, how good is she at getting off of ask price negotiating when I represent a buyer? So those 4 statistics now communicate and show me, don't tell me, why I would want to hire you as a listing agent, or why I would want to hire your brokerage as a brokerage firm, or why I would want to hire you as a buyer's agent. Does this make sense, these numbers? Okay. And does this visual impact, you could add it to your pre-appointment packages, you could add it to your marketing pieces, you could add it to your sales presentations, you could add it to your website. I mean, at the end of the day, this is, don't tell me what you do, show and sell me what you do and how you do it. Okay? There's an old saying that when I go to a bank, I use a gun. When I use a gun and a visual, I get better results. When I run into the bank and I just yell and scream, this is a holdup, I don't get the same results. So when you tell me what your numbers are, it's not as the same as the visual that you show me what your numbers are. So use a visual. I find that most agents get caught telling and not showing and selling. So get off of the telling train and get on the visual and the selling train and use visuals and be able to show this information. Okay, so let's go back up to here and just repeat and re-emphasize. So these are all, we want to understand what the average agent in your board is days on market and what your days on market are. The average agent's is listings taken versus listings sold percentage and what your percentage is. The average list ask price to sale price percentage and what your ask price to sale price percentage is, and what your percentage off of ask is on average for when you represent a buyer, right? And how good of a negotiator you are. Search the price ranges, search the neighborhoods, search the property types. You have most of that information there. Search the best months for listings and sales in your board, and search where the demographics are or where the migration and where things are happening, and build something that is more intentional and more strategic moving forward from the market numbers and that. And I will supply you with that Excel spreadsheet that you can use as a guide for ours as well. Okay. Now, yours are, what's your average price? So everybody asks me, why is my average price important, Wade? Okay. Would you agree that if you raise your average price, then you'll earn more by raising your average price? Make sense? So if you're aware of what your average price is and you can move up your average price, you're working smarter, not harder, by earning more, by selling less, by moving your average price up. Okay. Your days on market, good to know what yours are, how they compare to the average agent. Your list to sell, your listings taken versus listings sold. Good to know how you compare and how you average the other agents. What were your price ranges? What were your property types and what were your areas that you had listings and sales in? Now, what percentage of your business is with buyers and what percentage of your business is with sellers? So why I think this is important is this. The NAR statistic, NAR statistic. NAR says that it only takes an agent on average 8 hours of time, money, and effort to sell a listing. Maybe a little bit more than these days in this market, but it takes 4 times more energy, time, and effort in that to sell a buyer. And to put a buyer out when you've got more inventory in that, it's just harder to close the buyer and harder to convince them to buy it and get off there because there's new shoes coming on the shelf every day. Oh, look at all the shoes, Wade. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what comes into the store next week. This is amazing. There's so much inventory coming on and this, that, and I can't wait to see it. So it's difficult and it takes 4 times as much time and effort. So how many people would like to work smarter, not harder in 2026? Working smarter, strategy number 1. Raise your sale price. Strategy number 2, try to be more on the list side versus the buy side because you are working smarter, not harder with the listing side. The other gift to the list side is when you're doing all your marketing, when you're doing all your content, when you're doing all those things, you're actually going to spin another on average, 15 more buyers and sellers from one listing. The stat says that if you're good at marketing and good at capturing and good at follow-up, you can capture 15 more buyers or sellers from just one listing and from your marketing efforts. So again, working smarter, not harder. Okay. What are your price ranges? What are the market's price ranges? What are your property types? What are the market property types? What are your neighborhoods? What are the market neighborhoods? How do they compare? Are you missing out? Are you in the wrong price ranges? Are you in the wrong neighborhoods? Are you in the wrong property types? Are you in the wrong demographics? What were your best months? And what were the market's best months for listings and sales? Right? And what are your sources? Where are your sources coming from? Are they coming from your database? Are they coming from online? Are they coming from different marketing places and things like that? And then if you average price raise, then your average commission raises. And here's a question. Look at your information this year and be honest with yourself. How much did I cut? How much did I cut on my fee for service this year? How much commission concession did I give? Did I give too much commission concession this year? Okay, so these are all the areas that I would encourage you to look at yours and study your business and look at your sources, right? So if you're trying to identify, here's the math for all your days on market. Add up all your days, divide by the number of listings you took this year. So here are the statistics. Here are the things that you'd look at for your numbers on page 15. And here's how to do the math. And here's how to figure out the math on each of those statistics and each of those areas. Any questions on analyzing your business, analyzing your data and your numbers? Any questions on that? We're good? Okay, now I want to share a tool here, and I want to just share a tool that somebody can use. So, Jason, would you mind volunteering for me, man? Would you like to unmute and just, I'll do your business plan for you in 3 mathematical numbers. Do you mind playing a game with me?
I don't know if you want to use me. I'm not selling, but
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So what we're going to do, man, is we're just going to figure out your business plan and we're going to do it in 3 mathematical numbers. We're going to just totally do it simple. Okay. So I'm going to send everybody this tool that Jason and I are using in that. And what I'm going to do for Jason is we're going to figure out his business plan and we're going to just keep it simple into 3 mathematical numbers. Okay, Jason? So next year, could you share with me what is your intention or what are you hoping to do gross commission wise next year in 2026? What would your goal be, dollar wise?
well, I'll keep it at the 200,000 that you have on the spreadsheet.
Okay, perfect. Now, all you have to do on everybody when you get this tool, all you have to do is change the number in the green categories and everything will populate. Okay, so if I change the numbers here, if I went quickly to 250,000, you'll see that all the numbers change accordingly to Jason's numbers and that. So we keep Jason's numbers at the 200,000 and we go with 200,000 for his GCI goal. Jason, for 2026 or in your past, what is your percentage of sellers and percentage of people that you do on the listing side, usually annually?
It was probably 60% sellers.
Okay, perfect. So I'll adjust that. So Jason's working smarter. He's not working harder. I love that. So I can only assume that 40% was with buyers and 60% with sellers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. When you go and take a listing, what was your listings taken versus listings sold percentage this year? What was your expiration rate like this year?
It's tough for me to say for this year. Let's say 80%.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Right. So like in Kelowna, it's 33 or 35%. It's brutal this year, right? So 80%, great number. Now, when you go to an appointment, Jason, what is the percentage that you take or walk away or you get? What's your success rate that you walk away or you don't take, or they just Mr. and Mrs. paid too much, need too much fun, or you successfully get? What's your ratio when it comes to appointment to contract conversion?
That was also fairly high, so that's probably also going to be around 80%.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So he's at 80%. And then what about buyers that lie and buyers that die and they're sitting and waiting? What's your ratio on buyer conversion? Not ones that are in your lead funnel or in your lead pond, not the ones that actually bought. Those are obviously 100%, but what were in your funnel and what were in your pond. Like most ratios, most agents, there's a 50-50 chance of most buyers doing stuff in our marketplace. But what do you think your ratio is?
Mine's probably a little bit lower, probably 30-35%.
Yeah, and you're being honest, man. So thank you for that, because that is actually the real number is 35%. But people have so many leads in their FUB or their CRMs or their auto email search that they don't consider all those, and those are all part of your ratio for your buyer leads and that aren't buying, right? So it's fair. And then what was the average dollar per transaction for you this past year?
On the commission?
Yes.
22,000.
Awesome. So $22,000. And then most important question next year, please, Jason. What number of weeks are we holidaying next year?
Holidaying? I'm going to say 8.
Okay, awesome. So Jason's going to work 44 work weeks in 2026, okay?
Yeah.
So we took a $2,000 business plan for Jason, okay? And now we've converted it into the following numbers. So the first number, Jason, is based on this red little number here. So I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but
Yep.
it says that you need 19 appointments in 2026, okay? 19 appointments. All right? Now,
Mhm.
what we have to do is we have to use these ratios. So everybody needs to write these down, but they are on my slide deck. So a pro can have 25 conversations or communications and they get an appointment, a pro. An average agent needs to have 50 communications or conversations to get an appointment conversion rate. And a rookie is 75 communications or conversations to get an appointment. Okay. So based on those ratios, Jason, what do you feel? Are you a 25 to 1, a 50 to 1, or a 75 to 1 conversation or communication to appointment opportunity?
I'm going to say I'm not the pro, so let's go with a 75 to 1.
Okay, well, I'm going to say if you're doing these numbers, you're going to be 50 for sure, man, because
Sure.
an average agent's 50, right?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to take your 19 appointments and we're going to multiply them by 20 or by 50 conversations, right? Or communications. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got 950 communications or conversations you need in 2026. Now, this number for most agents seems super overwhelming, but let's dummy it down and break it down to the simple. Okay. So we got 950 communications or conversations. Okay. Individual separate ones. Next year, you're going to work 5-6 day work week. Which one?
5. No, realistically, it's 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we've got 44 work weeks times 6 days a week. You got 264 working days. Does that make sense? Next year? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to take your 19 and multiply it by your 50 communications, and then we're going to divide it by the 200 and what did I say for working days? 200 and
64.
Thank you. Divided by 264 working days. So Jason now only has a number at 3.59. So four communications or 4 conversations a day. Does that seem something that is very manageable for you next year?
100%.
Okay, write that number down. 4. That's your first number. So everybody needs to figure out what their communication is, their conversations are, what their numbers are based on that appointment number first. Okay. That's the first number, Jason, 4. Okay. The next one, Jason, you can see just below the 19, you've got 0.4. So that's about a half of an appointment a week next year, a half an appointment. So you just need to get in front of a legit buyer or a legit seller for a listing contract presentation or a buyer contract agreement presentation every second week. So it's 1 appointment every second week is your second number. Okay. So 4 communications or 4 conversations a day, an appointment every 2 weeks. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Okay. Either number seem difficult.
No, it sounds too good to be true.
Correct. This is why I do this and break it down, because then maybe Jason, when he gets this tool, might change the numbers, might change things, because just so you know, the math doesn't lie and the numbers don't lie. But most agents focus on the 200. They don't focus on the 4, 1 every 2 weeks. And then the last number is you've got 9 transactions, right? So you've got 12 months. So we've got 9 divided by 12. So we're 3/4 of a deal a month.
Yep.
Is your third number. So your 3 numbers for 200 grand, Jason, 4, 1 every 2 weeks, and 0.75 of a transaction deal a month. So
Okay.
let's just see if I tweak this on you. Let's just go to 250 and just see what the number does. 250. Okay. So all of a sudden now we're at 1 deal a month, still around that 4 or 5 conversation, and still at that appointment every 2 weeks at 250.
Yeah.
Didn't move much, did it?
No.
No. Okay. Now, I'm not planting any seeds, but let's just have a look and just see how much it shifts if we went to 300. And I'm not imposing any ideas. I'm just using this tool to get an idea. So it was just over 1 transaction, just over an appointment a week, and still around that. It jumped from 5 to 6 now conversations a day. Okay.
Yep.
Do those numbers seem like there's something that you could easily obtain next year if you just focus on those 3 numbers?
I'm not feeling overwhelmed yet.
Correct. So when you break it down into the simple and you use this tool, don't worry about the 200. Don't worry about the 250. Don't worry about the 300. Worry about the conversations per day. Worry about your appointments per week. Worry about and then the transactions will come. Because if you get the appointments and you get the conversations, you get the presentation. So let me just explain to you, Jason. If you don't have communication or conversations, then you don't get presentations, correct?
Yeah.
If you don't get presentations, then you don't have appointments and you don't get contracts.
Right.
You don't get contracts, you don't get listings, you don't get sales, you don't get deals.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get the deals, you don't get food, then you don't get anything and you die and you're sad and you're mad. Right? But
Yep.
what does it all boil down to? The very first number was the 4 or the 5 or the 6 conversations a day. So one of my mentors, Marilyn Jennings, she's from Calgary, a mentor from Remax and that, she said that she would just move people from one sub area, neighborhood, suburbia to another suburbia because it was more affordable or they could better product for the price now, or she just move them all over different areas of Calgary and that. And she had a number of 10 a day. So not recommending this, Jason, because you're not doing it, but she would tuck 10 cards in her bra a day and she would not be able to go home until she had 10 conversations and handed out 10 cards a day, right? Now, and so that was her litmus test or her measuring test that she's done her day. She's had her conversations and she knows the seeds are planted and she likes her chances. And that the appointments will come, the contracts will come, the deals will come because she's had the conversations. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%.
100%. So you just worry about the conversations, track the appointments, and then the deals and the volume and the GCI will come. You just have to trust the math and trust the numbers and the ratios. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay? All right, so I'll send everybody that tool, and you can use that tool and just figure out the numbers on that. And just going back to the presentation here, I did put the numbers in here for you guys, those ratios, right? So here's a couple of things that you can work smarter, not harder ideas for you. So idea number 1 is basically you can increase your number of people. How many people would agree that there's an opportunity like there's never been before where you can increase relationships this year and next year? So when I went to NAR last year, everyone, there was a statistic that scared the heck out of me and should scare everybody on this call today. There was a number that was thrown around at all these sessions called 87%. You know what that number meant? 87% of people would use their agent again, but aren't using their agent again. That is a terrifying statistic. Something shifted in us socially from 2021 and has changed things. And also, this thing right here, you guys, this has got an impact and influence on people and moving your clients and your relationships and impacting them, the phone, the mobile device. So we're up against it. We're up against it. So you cannot sit in your laurels and think that you have your clients and you have your relationships because 87% said, hey, I like Jason, I like Wade, but because of different communications mechanisms, my phone, social media, groups, whatever else and that I'm checking out and I'm watching and that, I end up getting drifted or pulled away, whether I like it or not. Does that scare us all? Scares me, right? Scares me. Did you know that every 5 years, a veteran agent loses half of his relationships list if he's not in contact with his relationship? Every 5 years, 50% gone. So the good news is if you're new on this call, all the veterans, they're in trouble because their clients are going to leave them, whether they think it or not. Some will stay, majority will stay, some will stay, but the majority are going to be influenced and pulled away by us based on whether we like it or not. So next thing, increase your average sale price, which increases your average commission. So get a hold of more increased relationships because we can't control who's going to leave us. We can only control really who's coming to us. increase your average price, increase the repeat and referral and the relationships, right? Increase those numbers. That helps us. And increase basically those areas, and then you'll be able to increase your productivity. So here are your conversations a day, Jason. Here are your appointments a week. Here are your transactions per month. At the end of the day, those are the three mathematical numbers for everyone's business plan. We should all know what our conversations a day, our appointments a week, and our deals per month are. We should all know those numbers. Okay. There's the ratios that I shared with Jason: 25 to 1, 50 to 1, 75 to 1, those relationships and those conversations. So a conversation or communication is anything that could end up allowing me an opportunity with the buyer or an opportunity with the seller each and every day. Okay. It's a communication or a conversation that could ultimately lead me to a listing or a sale opportunity with somebody and having those conversations. It's not just a general conversation. It's something that intentionally communicates or intentionally has the ability or wherewithal to allow me to get an opportunity to serve someone on the buy side or sell side. That's the definition of a communication or conversation. Okay. All right. So I did the math for everybody here. Jason and I did the math and what we calculated on my phone computer and that, or phone calculator. So it's all here for you guys here for the top-down planning ratios as well on this slide and going through it in that. Are there any questions about the market numbers, please? Are there any questions about your market numbers? Was that helpful? Was good? Okay. All right. So focusing on those and focusing on those numbers and using the data and using the ratios and using the numbers to be able to do that. Okay. All right. Now let's move into the next quadrant. So the thing I want to talk about here, guys, and we're going to go in deep dive into this, is basically your business. Okay. So this is your business. This is your house. Okay. And so if you listen to Tom Ferry or to Richard Robbins or any of the gurus and that, they all recommend that you cannot be a one-trick pony. Based on that 87% stat, it is very terrifying to be one single skewer lead gen pony, if that makes sense. Okay. So if you look at my house, this is my house. Okay. This is my business. There are 6 funnels, 6 pillars, 6 streams, 6 areas of opportunity that I need so that I have enough funnels and enough conversations to create enough opportunities in enough areas. Okay. Now, funnel number 1 or area number 1 for everyone on this call is your database, your sphere, the people that know us and like us and trust us, and gathering and accumulating and forming new relationships. So why is database the foundation of it? Okay, here's why. One person in my relationships list equals 1,000 income annually. One person equals 1,000. One relationship equals another 150 relationships. So that relationship isn't just one relationship. They know another 150 relationships. Okay. But going back to that statistic, 4 to 5 would use me again, but don't. Can't understand it. There's a shift and a movement out there that's there. 50% of my relationships are gone without any communication or contact. And we spend 6-8 times more money, energy, and effort getting them than we do keeping them. What is wrong with us, right? And I was guilty of the same thing. It says that we're spending so much time getting them and not the effort and time and investment in keeping them and doing that. If you add value and stay top of mind, you're going to see a minimum of 22% return on your foundation and on your base of your home and of your business on your database. Does this make sense? 22%. Let me give you an example why this number is so impactful. Internet leads, nothing wrong with it. Average agent conversion rate, 1.5% return. This is minimum 22% return. Does everybody get what I'm throwing down here? Okay. The ratio and the return on investment is so much higher. And 80% of our income comes from 20% of our relationships in our database. Okay. So I understand that repeat referral business is amazing. I've shared the stage with Brian Buffini in Vegas. I've been on the stage with him. He's a good friend of mine, and we've hung out lots in Ireland and different places than that. My point is this is that there's something fundamentally different with people. We're a bit different nowadays, the shift in that. And for some reason, and for all these different reasons, people are just not using their agent again. And that should be a wake-up call for everybody on this call, including myself. Okay? So I'm going to just talk about this. A database audit. So go through your texts, go through your messages on Facebook, Instagram, on your phone, and go look at the people that you're texting with, messaging with, and see if they are on your database. Because arguably, wouldn't you agree that those are the people that you have relationships, the ones that you're texting and messaging on social and messaging on your phone? Would you agree? I have a relationship with them because I'm communicating with them. So are they in your database first? Okay. And then your 5-star relationships are the only relationships you need to worry about the following. You need your name, they need their phone number, you need their mobile number, you need an email and a mailing address, and you need their date of birth, and you need their house anniversary date. Okay. So only my 5-star relationships on my CRM require the following information. My 4, 3, 2, 1 stars, I just need a minimum of a name, email, or possibly a phone number. Okay. But do an audit and look at it and say, people that are on texting regularly, people that I'm messaging regularly on social and that, are they in my database and are they all set up as a 5-star relationship? Because arguably, I think that that's where you're spending your time and that's who you have relationships with, and looking at that and doing a database audit. That's number one. Number two is, be honest with yourself, you guys. I'm going to be really, really frank and brutally honest here right now. Are you delivering the expected or are you delivering the unexpected to your database? Let me explain the difference. Okay. So, Jason, is a newsletter an expected touch or an unexpected touch to your database?
Expected.
Correct. Is a CMA annually equity check analysis expected or unexpected?
Unexpected.
Okay. Birthday, acknowledgement, house anniversary.
I would say they don't expect it, but they're important.
Correct. What about having trades and services and business owners, a B2B component to it? Having that and making that available to your clients, expected or unexpected?
I expect it, but
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else does.
Yeah. What about pop buys or mail buys?
Unexpected.
Correct. Movie events and client appreciation events?
Unexpected.
Reaching out on social and reaching out when they have a life moment, like a death or a child graduating or a new grandchild or anything like that, a life moment, and connecting with them and celebrating that, expected or unexpected?
Unexpected.
Correct. So the goal is this, guys. If we want to counteract that 87%, if we want to impact, if we want to make our clients wowed, we got to take what you've got going expected and make it unexpected. So give you an example. My newsletter, I could make it unexpected by putting event dates in there for the holiday season, or I could make it unexpected by doing business spotlights or trade spotlights or places that you could frequent or places that are things that you could do over the holiday season, or I could put a discount coupon on my newsletter. I'm trying to take my newsletter and make it something of value and unexpected and have it pop and wow. Does that make sense? Right? Because agents have been so caught in doing expected and not delivering the unexpected, and that's another reason why there's no wow. How many people have read Scott Stratton's books on selling, Scott Stratton on selling, right? And he talked about this one part where there's this story of that gentleman and his family going to the Four Seasons. They stayed at the Four Seasons and they lost their teddy bear, their son's teddy bear. And the people at Four Seasons, they could have easily been like, we're the Four Seasons. We're busy. Like, we don't give a crap about your kid's teddy bear. But that's not what the Four Seasons did. The Four Seasons delivered the unexpected. They sent updates to the family, letting them know what the bear was doing. They had pictures of the bear lifeguarding one day, and then he was working the door as a bellman one day, and they went over the top and they created Polaroids and pictures of what the teddy bear was doing in that. Then they sent all of the day in the life of what the kid's bear was, and then some swag from the Four Seasons and put it all in a box and sent house coats and slippers and their sheets and pictures of what the boy's teddy bear was doing while he was away from the boy, and sent it to this family. And the parents were blown away. And the story got picked up by every media source in North America and around the world. Do you know what happened to reservations and bookings that year after that story went viral for the Four Seasons? They had the biggest reservation year, and it was the most powerful marketing plan. That story had gone viral that they had had in the history of the Four Seasons Hotel. So the moral of the story for agents is, are we delivering the unexpected and creating a story? And who is telling our story by delivering that? Or are we just delivering the expected? Right? And I arguably say that we are gotten stuck in the expected. And man, oh man, if there was ever a time in history that you need to start delivering the unexpected, it's now based on human behavior. Does that make sense to everybody? The wow factor has now become more important than ever to get off the expected train and get on the unexpected train and deliver that. Now, I'm not telling you to serial kill and bug your clients. What I'm saying is adding value, right? Wowing them and delivering the unexpected, and try to move from expected to unexpected. Little nugget for you guys. I'm guessing commuting around your area is a little bit difficult. Hey, Jason, like traffic and highways and transportation, things like that, it probably takes time and it's tedious in that.
It depends on the time of day, but yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay. So just so you know, my coaching clients, we moved from pop buy gifts to mail buy gifts. Do you know that we're getting the exact same response? In fact, higher response with mail buys than pop buys? Because in the big city centers and traffic and commuting and things like that, we're still getting the wow factor from mailing a funny tagline sheet and mailing an item to our clients, and not worrying about the pop buy and just throwing them outside the car and dumping them on the doorstep and that. So mail buys for some of my coaching clients 3-4 times a year are just as impactful as a pop buy, if that makes sense. So we're mailing seeds, we're mailing air fresheners, we're mailing like anti-fog wipes and glass cleaner wipes. We're mailing things that we can put in an envelope and that. Little story here, do not send Cinco de Mayo margarita mix powder, because one of my coaching clients had her mail seized in Canada Post Depot because they thought it was anthrax. It was actually lime margarita mix powder that she was mailing to her clients to celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And they pick up the phone and like, hi, yeah, so we have impounded your mail here. Could you tell us there's a powdery substance coming out of one of your envelopes? And she's like, oh my gosh, that's actually lime margarita mix powder in that. So they're like, it's not anthrax. So they actually sent her margarita mix packs out and all of her clients and that. But just a lesson there, don't send anything that might break open and might leak out, that might come dangerous substance into your mailing pieces and that. But mail buys, guys, just as powerful as a drop by. So for you guys, I'm going to send this to Alex and to Joe and to Crystal, but I created a what to do across the top for database touch and how the different ways I could do it along the side. Okay, so what is across the top and how is across the left side? And I challenge you to look at these and challenge you to be able to take them from expected to unexpected, to create more stories, to create more opportunities. Before our next break, I'll just share one last story. So I had an agent join my office, and he was working for Super Pages, and they were selling advertising for the phone book. And they all got the golden handshake, and they all got let go, and they're all good salespeople. And so Chris, this agent, he gets like 4 other agents to come join my office. And Chris brings me all these agents, and they're all incredibly gifted and talented people, and they're all doing like really good volume in their first and second, third year. So I'm like, how do I reward that behavior? How do I deliver that unexpected? So I knew and asked my agents like Chris, What does he like to go for dinner? Blah, 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 and this, that. I created an experience for Chris, for him and his wife to go away. So the hotel called them. They went for spa. They went to their favorite restaurant. They overnight. I even got his parents' contact information, and they took his kids and babysat them for the night and put together a night out for Chris and that, because I was trying to deliver the unexpected. And he's like, man, I got to tell you, my wife loves you. The spa, the restaurant, the night out, the parents looking after my kids. Well played. I don't know how you did it, but he forgot that I had collected all that information about him and that intel, and I was able to create that experience. And that my point is that Chris will tell my story of what the experience was. He wouldn't tell him if I gave him a few bucks. Does that make sense? He wouldn't tell the story if I gave him a few bucks. So I'm just encouraging you to create an experience or deliver the unexpected and create an opportunity where someone is telling our story, telling your story. Does that make sense to you guys? Right? And get off the expected train and get on the unexpected train. Okay? So that's the lesson there in doing the database and that and the foundation of it. Quickly, we'll just take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and then I'll finish up with these activities and some more ideas and some more nuggets for you to fill in your house here and your ideas and that. And take a 5-minute break and then we'll wrap up with the last two components of the business plan stuff in the next 45 minutes here. Talk to you guys soon. We'll come back in about 3-4 minutes. Okay, just a quick break. Talk to you soon. All right, team, let's make our way back. Thanks, everybody. So I'm just making reference to the booklet again. So we're going to just make reference to page 18 and 19. So on page 18 and 19 in the booklet, folks, you've got a weekly tracking. So tracking your activities and tracking what you're actually doing and implementing and executing. But what I want to share with you guys is probably the best tool or the best habit or the best feedback that I've been given for everyone that I work with this past year. It's based on a concept from the business philosopher Jim Rohn. Big, huge Jim Rohn fan. But Jim said that you need to finish your week before your week begins. And what Jim means by that is that the week should be laid out before the week even begins and finished, because if we don't lay it all out, then someone else or something else will lay it out for us, if that makes sense, right? So one of the activities I have, and I do this as my own self, and that is that I do what I call a sit down Sunday. So it's time while I'm watching the Sunday night NFL game where I'm looking at just laying out my week, laying out my schedule, and going through all of that, right? And so, thanks, Joe. And then, so at the end of the day, you have to finish your week. So what I've got my coaching clients to do, and I don't know if Joe and anybody, if you've got an accountability partner in your office, or Alex or somebody, a broker record, and that's responsible. But I get my agents to send me this on Monday. So they do it on Sunday and they send it to me on Monday. Okay. So the first thing they do is they sit down and they reflect and they write out their lead funnel. They write out their hot lead and their warm lead. So a hot lead and a warm lead, in my definition, is someone that's going to do something in 30, 60, 90 days, 120 days max. So they write out their seller leads and their buyer leads, and they write those hot leads out first. And then they pick and write out one of the database touches that I just talked about earlier. What database touch am I going to deliver this week unexpectedly, and who am I going to deliver it to? Then I'm going to share with you another technique called spin to win. So they pick one database touch, they pick one spin to win, and then they pick and they share with me in their email what content they're putting out this week and what premium touch, like what face-to-face, voice-to-voice delivering premium touch to their client they're going to do, and what buying opportunity they're going to promote this week. Okay, so they got 6 activities they got to lay out. They got their lead funnel they got to write out. They got their database touch they're doing this week, their spin to win they're doing this week, their content this week, their premium touch this week, and a buying opportunity this week. And then they send me the email. Now, let me just show you an example of one of my coaching clients is that. So this is Kayla. Kayla's only been in my office, you guys, for like less than 2 years, and I think she's Red Diamond this year. She's been in the business for like 2 years, and she's going to be Red Diamond this week. So this is an example of her sending me her Monday morning, sit down Sunday. So you'll notice right off the bat, there's a certain number beside those names. What's that certain number mean for her?
Commissions?
That's the dollars, baby. That's what that client's worth. So can you tell me, Jason, which ones is she following up more than a fat kid and a smartie this week on those leads there? Which ones?
Like the specific ones? I'm going to
I
say,
mean, you look at it, Michaela, for sure, she's worth 27 grand. Let's be honest. Carol and Glenn are worth 23 grand, right? Guntis is worth 15K. Terry's worth 20K. Like, it's like she clearly knows who she's zeroing in on from the list side this week, right?
yep.
And then she knows who the buy sides are going to be in the week too, right? Because the dollar numbers are there. Let's be honest, guys. The names are not good enough. The dollar value and what that client's worth to you, that's where the money is. That's where the motivation is. Let's be honest, right? So she writes them out, and then she says to me, the process of me forcing to sit down and look at it, all of a sudden I start remembering other ones that I got to go, oh, and other ones that by doing this and sending me this, right? And then she sends me her lead gen funnels, right? So if you look at this, she's got her different lead funnels, right? So here's her house. So she's got referrals from a super team in my office. She's got some Royal LePage Canada leads. She's got another veteran agent she's taking overflow from. She's dealing with her database. She's doing open houses, and she's got some social media and some paid content. That's her 6 lead funnels for the week that she's doing for her activities for the week. Does this make sense? Okay. Then she writes out what marketing she's doing, right? So she's doing a magazine subscription. She's doing some signage, open houses, social media flyer drop, and she's going to her AA meetings and that for her database stuff. She's not doing this week. She's not doing spin to win. Somebody, if you can't read this, there's a lady here on her list on her lead profile. It says Forsberg. It says she's never going to sell, right? And she writes it down and says she's never going to sell. I mean, that's just honesty. And she writes that down on her sit down Sunday, which I love, right? So then she's like, spin to win. I'm not making money off of the money as I'm generating. I'm guilty of that. And then database, which she's doing, and then her content, right? And then she just puts this all out in an email and sends this to me, and I review it and then go back and just give it some insight and some topics to that. So would you agree that if you take this and write this out, now step 2 is write it out. Step 2 is actually schedule it. Did you hear what I said? Write this out and then put it in my calendar as step 2. If you wrote this plan out and sent it to somebody to hold you accountable, and you scheduled it, what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, where you're going to do it, and this, that, would you like your chances of becoming consistently more consistent? Yes or no? 100%. Kayla says that, Wade, I put my head down at night on Sunday and I just feel like I know what I'm doing, who I'm doing it, when I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it. She says, I just feel like I know what I'm doing versus just winging it and going in blind before my sit down Sundays. Does that make sense to everybody, right? So I'm just sharing with you how a simple activity and scheduling and doing that. Now, does her weeks go off the rails? Hell yeah, her weeks go off the rails. Life happens and that and stuff. And sometimes she doesn't get to them, but at least she knows she's got a plan of attack each week and that she's got a chance of getting more done than not done. And even though there's opportunity where she may get side railed in that. Does that make sense on the sit down Sunday and what to do and how to schedule and how to plan that? Does that work for everybody? How many people like that idea, that concept? All of my coaching clients and all of my clients in that send me that said that this has been a game changer for me. And then if you have team members or you have assistants, you should send the sit down Sundays to everybody, because now your admin knows what you've got planned in that, and they go, hey, wait, is that something I could do for you on your sit downs? Can I take care of that for you, or can I take care of that? Now they're in your head because it's on your plan and it's out of your head. Does that make sense to you guys? And you got leverage. Everybody knows what's happening, what's going on. They've got it all laid out, better laid communication in that. So if you have a team or you have an assistant or where else in that, get them on the sit down Sunday train, guys, and get it all laid out on Mondays and that. It makes a huge difference for everybody that's involved in the situation. Okay. So just a strategy that I'd share with you. And then I send you the template here. I'll send you the sample one of Kayla's example in there just to give you an idea in that. And then just find somebody or someone that you can hold you accountable and just send it to them, okay? And go through that process on a regular basis. Yeah, so question here from an agent is how many agents are doing paid ads? So the question is the answer is this, is that the ones that are savvy and the ones that are good at this, and I'm going to address that question in here and that, and I don't want to supervent it, but I want to just share to you, if you're going to do a paid ad, I want to make sure that you do a paid ad properly, and I'm going to share with you in a few minutes on that, okay? But before I do that, we've got the database touches and the database for our foundation. And then we've got the sit down Sunday component. And now I want to share with you guys another strategy called spin to win. So what spin to win is that how many of us are generating more business from business as it occurs? How many people are generating more business from business as it occurs? So there's a window of opportunity when you generate business that you can generate more business from that business as you generate it. So this is called spin to win. So here are all your opportunities. I'll send Joe and Crystal and Alex this Excel spreadsheet, but all along the top, pardon me, all along the top is what to do, and all along this left side is how to do it. Okay. So I'm going to give you a story here. I have a team of young adults that I coach in the GTA. Very competitive market. Would you agree? They're all 20 somethings. Okay. Do you know that they do letter tuck Tuesdays? They do letter tuck Tuesdays. I'll share what they do. Okay. So they're crushing. They do a letter tuck Tuesday. So they either tuck a letter for a bona fide buyer, a legit buyer, they tuck a letter for a just sold, or they tuck a letter for an invite to open. Okay. Or a just listed. But the best response is a bona fide buyer. The second best response is just sold. Okay. Then an okay response is just listed and invite to open. Okay, so they tuck a letter, you guys. They're tucking a letter that is on plain white paper. I repeat, plain white paper. Typed or handwritten, it doesn't matter. With their business card stapled, folded, tucked in the door. Okay? It cannot be branded. The minute it's on letterhead, the minute it's branded, the minute it's all flyered up and junk mailed up, doesn't have the same response. It needs to be like a letter or a note that I just hit Jason's car in the parking lot and left him a note on his windshield. It has to be the same way as that I just did that with Jason. So we have determined, all of the agents that are letter tucking and going for a walk on Tuck Tuesdays, if you tuck 75 to 100 properties around that listing, around that sale, or where a buyer's looking, right? 75, it takes 1 hour. 1 hour per letter tuck. Okay, 1 hour. Anybody can go for a walk for an hour. Trust me, anyone can go for a walk for an hour. They tuck the neighborhood the first week. We normally don't get a response because the first week the client goes bait and switch. We see these all the time. These guys are just scamming us, typical realtor flyer drop, not working. Week 2, they're like, oh, Wade still got that buyer looking in our neighborhood because it's out week 2. We get 1 or 2 calls. Same letter that we tucked a week prior that got no calls. Week 3, you ready for this? Anybody want to guess how many calls we get on week 3s usually? Because week 3, now it must be legit. For some reason, they had a memory lapse that I tucked the first 2 weeks, and now week 3, they're like, it's funny, we were just talking about doing something, and we got your letter, and we thought we would call. Week 3, average 6 to 8 calls from 1 letter. Would anybody like a listing appointment for going for a walk 1 hour each week for a bona fide buyer, tucking the same residences 3 times and getting a half a dozen calls and a half a dozen listing opportunities? Would anybody be okay with that? I know I would, for an hour walk, and I could use the steps, and I could accomplish my goal of getting that 30 pounds off, right? So at the end of the day, like it's the same thing. Like, I don't want you to knock because you can't talk. You can tuck 75 and 100 an hour. It would take you forever to knock and talk and chitty chat. So you don't do that. So what to say and what to communicate is all along the top, and how to say it and how to deliver it and all the different options is all along the side. Okay. So every time you have a legit buyer, spin it. Every time you have a just sold, spin it. Every time you've got a price reduction, try spinning it. Open house invite, try spinning it. Testimonial, try spinning it. A buying opportunity, try spinning it. A just sold, a just listed, try spinning it. Look at it. Trust me, if you added this to one of your 6 frames in your work and that, a lot of agents are having a lot of success with this kind of spin to win activity. And you know it's only good for a certain time point in that to spin. And you can spin it if you represent buyer or if you represent seller. You just got to make sure that you communicate that. Buyer represented or seller represented, right? Just got to make sure. Okay. So database idea number 1, sit down Sunday number 2, spin to win number 3. Next component or next idea. All right. So content. So the question for Mimi, thank you, Mimi, was for the content of that. So visibility trumps ability. guys, I don't care how we look on camera. I don't care about the content. But here's what I do know is that visibility trumps ability and it creates a perception. But please, 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 can you start putting content that pulls, not content that pushes? Stop push contenting and start pull contenting. What I mean by that? Every one of those agents in Canada posted the same damn graphic from the Bank of Canada and put out an infographic 2.25%. Is that push content or pull content? When 100,000 agents in Canada did the same damn thing on the same damn day. It's push content, right? Like seriously, the 80s called get your originality back, right? So make sure it's pull content. What do I mean by pull content? It's content that answers the following questions. Write these questions down. Should I? Can I? How do I? I repeat that. Should I? Can I? How do I? That is pull content. Should I? Can I? How do I? That is pull content. Okay? Now, Mimi, not only do you have to do pull content, but if your content that you have and paid content that you have and ad content doesn't have contact capturing, then you're just adding to the noise. What do I mean by that? So stop push contenting and start pull contenting. Second, put contact capturing in it, meaning offer a resource, offer something in exchange for a name and an email, and if you may, a phone number, but name and email. Okay? Let me explain to you a little story here and a little bit of an example of this. Okay? So I didn't believe this, but at NAR last year when I was there was a lady, Karen, that was from Savannah, Georgia. Okay, you ready for this, guys? So, Mimi, this lady put a video on YouTube with her explaining that she had a relocation guide available for Savannah, Georgia on YouTube. Okay, so she's got in her kitchen, it's Karen here. I've got this Savannah, Georgia relocation guide, blah, 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 blah. It's on YouTube. Okay, no pay-per-click. No pre-roll, ad roll, YouTube ads for ad roll or that, nothing whatsoever, all organic. So obviously relocating to Savannah, Georgia is something that Google gets on a keyword search a lot. So after her presentation, she says to me, I have done and captured 1,000 emails and names in 10 years. Would anybody on this call like to capture and add 1,000 emails and names to your CRM in 10 years? Ready for this? Maybe you don't want to answer yes to this question, but how about 1,000 names and emails that turned into 370 sales in Savannah, Georgia for Karen? I'm not kidding you guys. 37. Look at Jason's eyebrows. What the heck? 37 deals a year from a stupid relocation guide that I got a copy of. It's crap. I'm not kidding you. It's so crappy, so generic, and so bad publisher. And this damn thing generated 1,000 emails and names in 10 years and 37 deals a year every year for 10 years, 370 transactions. That is a 37% conversion rate. Like, I'm just like, are you kidding me? No PPC, Mimi, no ad pre-rolls, no dollars spent, all organic Savannah, Georgia relocation guide. Blow my mind. And all she did was ask for an email, ask for a name, and download the damn thing in exchange for the information using a landing page and a website. Does that make sense? Crazy. So, tip number one, content needs to be pull content, not push. Content needs to have contact capture, or you're just adding to the noise and you're wasting your time and you're missing on your opportunity to contact capture. So exchange the resource. Give you some other examples. Relocation guide. Another example, a divorce guide. School guides. preparing a home to sell for top dollar guide. Think about what the buyers and sellers, how to manage buying and selling and not making the mistakes guide. Like, think about the things that people are questioning right now. How do I sell my house for more because I paid too damn much? It's probably a good guide. Divorce, probably a good guide, right? Relocation guides, right? So in my office, I'll add this. I have a link of all the guides that I created for our brokerage and that you guys can steal from me. Okay, it's a Google Doc. Please don't change the docs and the Googles. Just download the documents. Don't change them. But I'm going to send you a link of all the guides that I thought of that consumers might want in exchange for their contact information for content. Does that make sense, Mimi? I'll send it out for you guys. Thank you for asking. And the crazy part is that I'm only going to spend on content that has contact capture, or you're just adding to the noise and wasting time on PPC and all that stuff. So if I'm using acronyms, it's pay-per-click, Facebook ads, right? YouTube pre-roll ads, things like that. You don't need to spend that money if it's the right content and it's organic and it's actually something that the consumer really is looking for or wants. That makes sense to you? Okay. All right. Now, yes, property boosts work and things like that with KV Core and Bold Trail that. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, how do you put out content that the consumer wants and is willing to exchange it? So here you go, Mimi. Here are the topics of all the content that sellers want. So this is from NAR. These are the things that everybody's wanting to know about information from sellers. They want to know how you sell a house in a specific time frame. They want to know how you price a property home competitively. They want to know how you market to potential buyers now in this generation. They want to know how you fix it up and help them fix it to sell it and to stage it more. How do you get and find buyers for their actual home? How do you negotiate a deal with a buyer? How do you manage and navigate all the inspections and the due diligences and the paperworks and all of the settlements and all that? How do you help me find a home to purchase when I'm selling as well? How do you create video content and virtual tools and that? How do you actually do that? There's the study and the survey that goes out every year, Mimi, of what the seller wants for content and what they're looking for. Can I ask anybody? Is there anybody seen anybody put content out there about this and guides and resource guides out there in your guys' marketplace? I bet you the answer is nope. Everybody put 2.25%, the Bank of Canada rate, though, in Canva and put it all out on the same damn day. That was original. Woohoo! Way to go, guys. I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just saying it just seems silly that 100,000 agents do the same thing every day. So here is what all of the buyers want. Buyers want, how do you find the right home for me? What's the process of elimination? How do you find it? How do you get me navigated when there's so many shoes on the store shelf and that? How do you negotiate? How do you play the game for me as a buyer? Right? How do you do the paperwork and maneuver in that? How do you provide me with comparables? How do you determine what I can afford? How do you help me arrange financing? How do you teach me about the amenities and the walk score and all the areas in that? That's the content that the buyers are looking for out there, guys, and the guides for them they're looking at. With chat and perplexity and all that, this should be so simple for you to create guides and content now for these resources in exchange for their contacts. Does this make sense? Okay, right? So thank you for asking that question. Did you guys notice on those surveys that there was nothing to do with whether you're a top producer, whether how many social media followers you had, or what kind of dance moves you have on TikTok? They didn't care about any of that. I'm just being cheeky. None of that came up on the survey. But honestly, that's kind of what I see what people are putting out there about that and putting out the content that. I'm not discrediting it, but at the end of the day, think about what they're saying in their heads. Think about what they want, what they need, okay? On your page 24 in your booklets, guys, here's a marketing plan for an agent. So I'm already doing January's marketing plan with my coaching clients. So we have what we're doing, how we're doing it, when we're doing it, what format, where we're doing it, and that, every quarter in that. So you've got a New Year's letter coming out. You've got a thank you for my best year letter coming out. You've got a annual CMAs. You've got an update on the market and a summary of the year in the past year, and open houses, some marketing stuff. A refinance seminar. Guys, do you know that there's 3.1 million Canadians renewing their mortgage this coming year? 3.1 million Canadians. Do you think there might be an opportunity of doing a refinance and whether I go fixed, variable, and that, and a refinancing seminar with one of your financial people? Why would I do a buyer and seller seminar? Everybody that comes to my refinance seminar owns a property and has a mortgage. Do I want them to attend my meeting and my seminar? Hell yeah, I want them to attend my seminar. They own a property, they have a mortgage. Wouldn't it make sense that you do a refinancing and give people some vision and some guidance in that? Anybody else other than me just renewed their mortgage and questioned what to do? Whether they went 1, 3, 5, so if we're doing it, don't you think the 3.1 million people out there are wondering the same thing? Because I was wondering what to do and how to do it and doing that and what the implications are and what the impact is in that. So wouldn't it make sense that a refinance seminar might make sense in this day and age right now with 3.1 million Canadians renewing? Just saying, an opportunity for a marketing plan. So here's an example of a marketing plan per quarter in that and looking at it. So going back to your house, okay? And I'm just going to give you my perspective and the opportunities, okay? I know in Ontario that expireds is a can of worms and that there's property in that, but I know that there's a lot of properties expiring and that there's an opportunity there. How you navigate that, I'm just throwing it out there. But my number one would be database. My number two would most likely be expired, but I've got to maybe tread softly and be careful with that. I'm just saying, and I know I'm opening Pandora's box. In BC, we're actually allowed to communicate with the expireds in BC. So we're kind of lucky that way. Number three, I'm probably going to say spin to win, generating business from business. If you don't have your own business, then use someone else's buyer in your office. Use someone else's just sold in your office. Use someone else's just listed in your office to let her talk. Okay. Geo farming, I like becoming an expert at a specific geographical location or price range or price point to that. I love agent to agent referrals, the networking of agent referrals through agents and realtors. And I love the B2B. I'll share with B2B. A lot of agents don't have leverage or network with business owners, service providers, and tradespeople. Think about it. So how do I build an opportunity to leverage who I know and what I do with what they do and what they provide and what they know in that with businesses, service providers, and tradespeople? I'll give you a quick couple tips. I had a monthly networking group of business owners, service providers, and tradespeople. Fantastic resource. I just got another referral. Guys, I haven't actively sold for years, and I just got a referral from my networking group, from my B2B group and that, for an agent in my office to list their property. I mean, I haven't sold in years, and I'm still getting referrals from that. I had a directory on my website. I had a book that I gave out annually. I had all kinds of things business-wise, trades-wise, and service-wise that I leveraged what I did in that, and I gained a lot of business, 6 figures business from the B2B. A lot of agents don't play B2B, business to business. A lot of agents just stick to P2P. So I like to go where their agents aren't that there's not that much competition. And last but not least, another one would have to be visibility, guys, content, right? But only pull content out. And if your content is going out, it must have a contact capture or don't add to the noise because there's enough noise out there. Because visibility trumps ability. There's a young man in my office that started this past year, and he's doing a ton of video content. And it's interesting because everybody in my office thinks he's killing it. Truth be known, he's now killing it in year 2. Year 1, he was putting out a ton of Carson Colton is the kid's name, putting out a ton of content. Do you know that he just picked up 2 developments, 2 projects, and listed all of their units and their 2 developments and projects in his second year, all from his content, from his video content and his content he's putting out. So it takes a bit of time, but now he's actually listing projects and developments because they love his content and how he's doing content and putting out stuff in that. So visibility, guys, trumps ability, whether we like it or not. We need to have some sort of presence and some sort of content out there. Okay? Any questions about the 6 pillars to your home and to your business? Any questions about the sit down Sunday? Any questions about spin to win? Delivering the expected versus unexpected and changing things up with your database. Any questions on pull content versus push content and creating a contact capture opportunity and following it up? Any questions about a marketing plan, what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and track the effectiveness of it each quarter in that? Any questions on that in your booklets? Was that helpful? Okay. The last section of our day today. So the money, please, everybody take a picture of this or write this formula down. The most important formula in all of real estate. The dirty little secret. Wade's non-negotiable personal expenses plus Wade's non-negotiable business expenses plus profit equals Wade's 2026 gross income goal. Wade's non-negotiable personal expenses, Wade's non-negotiable business expenses, plus profit equals my income goal. Many agents that I work with and assist don't know these numbers. They're going in blind. Many of them, their personal expenses are higher than their annual income goal. Houston, we have a problem. When your personal expenses are higher than your goal that you set, you have two options. Jason, what options do you have if your personal expenses are higher than your income goal next year? To do what?
Make more money or spend less money.
Thank you, sir. And so when I suggest that they have to spend less money, what do they say to me? Oh my gosh, that's preposterous. I'll just raise my income goal. Don't be crazy, man. I'm not spending any less. I deserve it. I earned it, man. Right? So, guys, whether you like it or not, you got to make sure the numbers are aligned. You got to make sure that you know at least what your minimum. So I've given you some spreadsheets on your booklets there. Here's to memory jog all of your personal non-negotiable expenses. Add them up. Here's your memory jogger for all your personal business expenses. Add them up. Then put profit on, and then you have your GCI goal for next year. So share my favorite financial story. I'm coaching an agent that's done he's done $1 million GCI. He's out of Calgary, Alberta, and he hit our ratio goal. Here's our ratio goal, guys. Write this down. Your ratio goal is that you do not want to exceed 35% of your income in expenditures. So you're trying to keep it around the 35% mark. So my coaching client, I said to him, hey, congratulations, man. You made your ratios. The only problem is his ratios were ass backwards, meaning his expenses were 65% and his income and profit was 35%. That is a common theme in our industry, right? In our industry in that. Now, why do I use 35? I believe that you can spend too little and not invest back into the business. You got to be spending and investing back into your business. Okay. So I'm using that as a benchmark at 35%. Okay. So use that sparingly, but some people are not spending and reinvesting in their business, and that's why it's not growing or it's dying. And some people are just completely inadvertently just spending way too much. So you have to do a financial audit. So look at your expenses and say, did this expense actually trigger an opportunity for me last year? Does this expense actually need to go away? Okay. And look at that and do that audit and do that investment in that. So I normally do is this the best you can do telephone call to all my service providers? So I hit up Shaw, or I hit up TELUS, or I hit up Rogers, or I hit them up. I hit up all those guys every second year in November. My wife's like, holy crap, Wade. Like, you'll take every penny prisoner and you'll make a phone call and stay on phone for 2 hours and 3 hours. But it's principle with me, guys. I just like to shave things off. So I'll share a little story of success. Last month, did an audit on my own home insurance. Do you know that we have an insurance company in my real estate office in Kelowna that's been with us for 20 years? They decided to part ways with us. So I've never shot my mortgage because I take care of them, because they take care of us and they're in our office and provide a service. I shot my home insurance policy for the first time this year, saved $600. I don't know about you, but $600, $600. My wife's like, oh. So you're loving me now. Hey, honey, I took every penny prisoner so you can go a little bit more shopping now because we got an extra $600 in our bank account, eh? Bet you're loving my dollar for dollars, my take every penny prisoner now idea in that. So I'm just saying to you guys is that just take a look at it and do a review. Take a look at if you're spending too much, if you're spending too little, you're not reinvesting. Look at your margins, look at your numbers. Make sure that you know what your non-negotiables are, please, and set it up. Another opportunity for you in that. So, how many people have their banking separate, personal and businesses separated, and separate the two? Their banking. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. So, I would encourage you to have separate banks, separate accounts, separate cards for business and for personal. Keep them separate. Right? If you're going to also get into business, that like nobody will tell you this little secret, but do you know how most agents survive in the winter? Business line of credits. It's the truth, right? I mean, like that's how a lot of agents seasonally we get through the leaner months and the leaner times through a business line of credit. And I'm not trying to tell you to go into debt. It's just that when the seasons come, when the cash flow is tight, I'll reach into the line of the business or the savings of the business, and the business is doing that. So let me just share with you one last story. So when I started with my dad in the 90s, my dad lived by this philosophy that you pay yourself first. How many people have heard that philosophy of that principle, financial, pay yourself first? So for 32 years, you guys, I have collected and been paid and receive a check every 2 weeks, no matter what. Okay. And so all of the income that comes in goes into the business account, and a check is written for personal every 2 weeks, and a check is written for business every 30 days. So I am free to go focus and do what? People, relationships, business, and that. I don't have to worry about it. And I bring a check home to my wife and family every 2 weeks. I still do it to this day. What would that check coming home and bringing it home to your loved ones do for the conversations around your house? Oh, are you going back to that pro bono job again and hoping that we're going to bring some money home next month, honey? Kind of thing, right? I was blessed enough to never have that fight or that conversation with my wife, Tina. We always had a check coming every 2 weeks, and we just kept going and then we would go into the business line or go into the business line. And I just keep building up the business income so that I'm able to draw and pay myself first. Does that make sense? Just one of those concepts and one of those things that you can help navigate from that standpoint and that side. I've always had a travel card because if I'm going to put my expenses, I put my expenses on a travel card, and I'm going to take a holiday once a year on a travel business credit card for my expenses annually, right? So I'm sure lots of people do that and provide that concept in doing that. So from the concept of that, you've got to understand that you need to make sure that there's profit in this business. You need to make sure that you're reinvesting. You need to make sure that your expenses are warranted and that they're tracking and they're getting you a return on your investment. And once in a while, every 2 years, just check in and see if there's any possibility of being able to save a few dollars on the expenses and things like that. I know I didn't go into deep into the financial side of things, but there's the spreadsheets there. There's the concept of paying yourself first. There's the concept of checking whether your expenses have an ROI and doing a financial audit on a regular basis. I'll close with this. Every year, I always did business planning, and we did a business planning retreat. And so we would take 2 days, go away, expense it. First day, we would basically sit down and we'd do section 1 and section 2 on the business planning booklet, and then we would do section 3 and section 4 on the business planning booklet on the second day. So I'm encouraging you that there's 64 pages of business planning information there. Break it up into bite-sized chunks. Just like Jason and I broke his $200,000 business plan into 3 mathematical numbers, break your business plan into bite-sized chunks and components where you can do it piece by piece. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. So take a day and just do a chunk, and take another day and do a chunk, and that you guys have the next 30, 60 days to just chip away at your business plan and doing that, but break it up into the sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. So finances, marketing, sales and marketing, numbers and ratios, and personal development and personal audits. Are there any questions? Anything that I need to explain? Now, before we go, take 2 minutes and write down the top 1 or 2 or 3 things that you are going to promise yourself to implement and execute. 1 or 2 or 3 things, max, that you are going to leave today's session and you are going to promise you that you are going to implement and execute leaving today. And I'll remind you of the story. 2 sales guys went overseas. One guy said, nobody's wearing any shoes. The other guy said, nobody's wearing any shoes. Where are they not wearing any shoes? In Mississauga and Milton and that? Where is the opportunity in 2026? Where is the puck going to be next year, guys? Not where it's been now and not where it is today. Think about that. Shift the mindset, shift the perspective. There's an opportunity. There's client share opportunity. There's market share opportunity. There's business opportunity in that. You just choose to decide how much of it you want to take. Alex, Joe, everybody on the call, you guys, I appreciate you taking the morning to take it and skip NFL football. I'm super, super grateful that you guys took the time to do that. I hope you found incredible value today. Check out my website, Agents Boost. There's a whole bunch of different ideas. I've got videos on geofarming, on expireds, on database, on all kinds of stuff in Agents Boost. There's a ton of webinars and recordings in that just set up differently. There's people sharing here that just delivering the unexpected and building stronger relationships. Someone's going to focus on a geofarm. Thank you for that. Somebody also said just the pull content versus push content and contact capture. Working smarter, not harder. Great ideas, great nuggets, you guys. You know what? I appreciate you guys sitting down and this many people attending today. Thank you for your time. Have an incredible holiday season, everybody. Have an awesome 2026. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you guys. Wish you nothing but the best. Here's to 2026. Nobody's wearing any shoes. You guys
Good
take
seeing
care.
everybody. Thanks, Wade.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye now.